EAGLES, Eagles.
Welcome in, everybody, to a Tuesday edition of Birds 365 here as we inch closer to the NFL draft, just 30 days away here. I'm your host, Zander Krause. That's my co-host, John McMullen. We're here to kick off another Birds 365 for you. Johnny Mac, how you doing on this Tuesday morning, brother?
Better than yesterday, not rainy. So that cheers me up a little bit.
Yesterday was a nasty day out, wasn't it?
Nasty day. Yeah, good description. So turning, and the Eagles got another player. The clearance off season continues. Little swing tackle action. 32-year-old swing tackle.
Yeah.
Kendall Lamb. So guys played a lot of football. Coming off a back injury, coming off back surgery. So they had him in for a workout, had to take a look at him, had to have the medical people look at where he is. But evidently all things are a go. Guy started 44 NFL games. So good safety net. Again, you hope some of the younger players, seize a moment. But if they can't, there's a consistent theme to this offseason for the Eagles.
Yes, there is. And they just added to it with an offensive tackle, as Johnny Mac mentioned, in Kendall Lamb. Johnny, what do you like? You like this signing? I think he's a good guy for Jeff Stoutland's room. I know he's a little older, 32 years old. That's a little against the theme that they've gone with. But what do you think of him and the fit with Jeff Stoutland in that coveted offensive line room? That seems like every offensive lineman would dream of playing in that room based on, just what Mekhi Becton was able to do and what a lot of people are able to do coming out of there.
Yeah, well, I never worry about a fit with Jeff Stoutland because he's going to figure out, what the best path forward is for anybody. He's going to maximize what they have, but more from the fit standpoint, as you mentioned, age. This is obviously a short-term thing. But again, if you're talking about losing Fred Johnson, it's a little bit underrated, I think, by the fan base. This guy's probably better, still at his age. So if you're looking at a game day swing tackle, which always you hope Jordan Mailata's out there, you hope Lane Johnson's out there for the whole season. Last year, that wasn't the case. Brad had started 6 games, 5 that mattered. And held up pretty well. And if a similar situation would develop next year, this guy's probably better equipped to be more consistent, I would say, from week to week, but maybe not have the upside of Fred against Trey Hendrickson when he was really amped up for whatever reason, played really well. But he didn't do that every week. I think this guy would have a more smooth seas, more calm presence, I would say.
Right, with less upside. He's not going to be that good of not going to be a tremendous player, but he will be a consistent, good player, reliable, I guess you could say, right? A reliable and smart with solid technique. But for those who don't know, 32-year-old Kendall Lamb, all right, he's 6'5", 310. How about that? He went to college at Appalachian State. Johnny Mac, a little App State coming in, 9 NFL years, and he was undrafted free agent in 2015. So he now joins the Philadelphia Eagles to bolster the depth on the offensive line room. John, I still think they're a little thin at that O-line room. How you feeling about the depth in that room as we stand today on March 25th?
Yeah, they got an add, I think, a little bit. I think you're right. But from the standpoint of outside, I think they're pretty good, when you have but again, you'd prefer a younger player step up. Maybe that's not possible. This is obviously not a guy who's going to be here for a long period of time. But when we talk about the draft proofing aspect of it, this enables you to say, okay, we can take it easy there now. And you don't have to worry about drafting a swing tackle or a potential swing tackle on day 3. They have a lot of, the Darian Kennards of the world. Brett Toth, he's been here for a very long time now. Trevor Keegan. The one glaring absence, I would say, is backup center. But Nick Gates now gone, but they've already shown what they do at center. They just move Landon at center, and then you would have, whether it's Tyler Steen, Kenyon Green, Darren Kennard. I think they have plenty, but you have to see who's going to step up. And it'd be nice to find somebody who can take center snaps. Brett can do it. I don't know if they're comfortable with that in an actual game. And, the Eagles' best center might be their backup center, and their starting center is a Pro Bowl center. So, those are rich people's problems.
Right. The whole offseason is rich people problems, John. Let's be real.
I mean, Landon Dickerson is what I was saying, is probably the best center they have, and he doesn't even play center. And the guy they have playing center is the Pro Bowl center. So
right.
Those are rich people problems.
Yes, they are. No doubt about it. As I mentioned, I think the whole offseason is freaking rich people problems. We're such a damn good team. We got to get rid of some roster turnover, and it all hurts because the team was so good, so stacked, and so deep. I mean, even losing your swing tackle, your swing cornerback, people are like, oh, what are we going to do without him? So I'm with you. I think it's for sure rich people problems. But anyway, they bolster the room. John, you put out yesterday, I didn't see the name. You put out another guy who was in to visit the Eagles on a on a top 30 visit, and he was a defensive end and edge player. Who was it that visited yesterday? I'm sorry, I'm forgetting the name. I have it written down, but I can't.
Elijah Roberts from SMU.
There you go.
If you want to look at it from an old school standpoint, he's more of a 5 technique defensive end, bigger guy, which again, I'd like to add some size to that edge group. And he's a big guy. So not the explosive, he's not first round pick. He's not in the conversation to be number 32 if they stay at 32, but would have some of that Brandon Graham like versatility to play outside. And if you had to move him inside, he could do that. Interesting player, and I think they need some size up front. I don't like going into a season with Nolan Smith and Jalix Hunt, Azeez Ojulari as your top 3 edge rushers at 240. Jalix will probably be 260, I would think, by the time he shows up, because at least he has the frame. But
he's a pretty big dude, John, Jalix Hunt. Like, he was towering over Brandon Graham.
He's tall.
Yeah, he's tall. Not as stocky yet, but he's definitely.
Oh, he's got the frame to add weight.
Right.
Yeah, he's got the frame. I've mentioned that pretty consistently, but he hasn't added it yet. So until you see it, like I always say, Bryce Huff is short, but he's there. Brandon Graham is a better example. He's short, but he's a big dude, strong. And I think they need more of that. And this guy would provide that physical presence. Obviously, it's all about, can you play, can't you play? But, after the first 4 were offensive linemen, here we go, defensive linemen. So, it's going to be a lot of offensive and defensive linemen.
Yeah, that's what it's going to be, a trench draft through and through. And, John, when you look at it, I do want to get into the draft a little bit. We got some great topics. I want to welcome everybody in today on a Tuesday edition, 30 days and 12 hours from the NFL draft, all right? 30 days and 12 hours from the NFL draft. So get ready, everybody. It's inching closer and closer. Who will the Eagles add this year? I'm thinking this year is going to be not a letdown at the draft, but we have had some good years of draft, John. We've had like multiple years of 2 number ones. We traded for A.J. Brown. We got Devontae Smith, Jalen Carter, Nolan Smith, all these fun picks. I don't think it's going to be as fun this year, but I think we still get some good players in the draft. So looking forward to that in just 30 days from now. John, I was looking at the top board of defensive tackle players in this draft. I don't know how many of these guys are going to even be in range. I mean, we've talked about Walter Nolan extensively. I've seen him fall in some mock drafts, but I think he could go earlier than we think. You look at Mason Graham, he's a guy who's way up the board. Kenneth Grant. I mean, all these dudes are 2 Michigan guys, obviously. Derek Harmon, you got Tyleik Williams from Ohio State, TJ Sanders. After that, there's a little bit of a fall off, but I could see those top 3-4 guys going early in this draft.
Yeah, I mean, if you're talking the edge, I think, your hope would be that Pierce or Stewart drop, but I don't think either of them will. It's generally a position where people are going to reach more than they're going to let things hang around. So then you start looking at the second tier, which is, guys like Landon Jackson and Nick Scourton and all those guys. And I don't think they'd be worthy of 32. Jack Sawyer's a guy for the same reason I talked about the kid from SMU who's got some size, some power. I think that would be a welcome. Kyle Kennard from South Carolina, the Eagles were down at their pro day asking around about him. But those are not 32 potentials.
Right.
And I think if you say who could be there at 32, all right, there's Abdul Carter. No. Mike Green. No. And then it's Pierce, Ezaraku, Williams from Georgia. They love that, obviously. Stewart. And that's probably it. So how many is that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Will 6 go in the top 31? Maybe somebody falls. Nobody thought Quinion would fall to 22 last year. Of course, I don't expect the draft to start with 15 offensive players, because Abdul Carter's up there, but like it was last year. But could one of those 6 fall? I guess in theory, but remember, the assumption is the Eagles like all 6. They probably don't. There's probably 1 or 2 in there. They say, that guy's overrated. That guy's over. So you're probably really talking about 4. And we know one of them's Carter, which they're not getting. And then you're down to 3. See how difficult it is?
Yeah, it's hard, man.
That's sort of, and then you start talking about, all right, if the guy you want, you don't want to reach, you don't want to take Jack Sawyer or Scourton, then you trade down, yada, yada, yada. So that's sort of how it works out. But again, there's other positions involved as well. There might be a defensive tackle that they like there. They might be an offensive lineman they like there. So it all factors in. But there's certain positions that are going to be a heavier emphasis than others. So you just play the odds, I would say.
No doubt about it. It's going to be interesting to see. John, who in your opinion fits this defense? Because, a lot of people I think love to look at the talent of players or, the combine or the skill set. And I think you got to get a guy that fits your system, a guy that's going to excel in your system. When you look at these defensive line players, does anybody jump out like, oh, I'd love to see him in Vic Fangio's system? I think he would work well here. Does anybody fit, in your opinion, that jumps off the page at you?
I don't know them, so I would say the smart guy. I don't know who the smart guy is.
Okay,
it's funny. Fair. It's funny you brought up Seth Payne was talking about Vic yesterday on Ross Tucker's podcast. Seth's longtime defensive lineman, was with Vic in Houston when Vic was down there, and he was talking about how we made him an extra few $1 million and how he didn't even know you could play defensive line a certain way until he got under Vic Fangio, who had a rule book of sort of when you have to stay disciplined, 2 gap it, 1.5 gap. Vic hates that, but that's what everybody thinks. 1.5 gap versus being aggressive, depending on the coverage you're playing that's called in back of you, depending on what the offensive formation is. And Seth went to Cornell, so I'm guessing he's pretty smart.
Pretty smart, but wasn't taught all the football stuff.
Exactly. But when Vic sees somebody like that, he opens up sort of the ability to do some different things. And I thought it was an interesting, because you don't hear a lot when everybody talks about Vic. They talk about coverage, all the coverages. But even up front, he does things differently, and he always has. I always talk about the 5-man front, rolled out the 6-man front that he did against the Rams back in the day that sort of stifled them against New Orleans, and obviously the more traditional. And he tries to marry, some of the things I always talk about. Like you rarely hear me talk about 4-3 and 3-4 because nobody plays that anymore, but you'll hear it everywhere else. It drives me insane. But the concepts of the old school 3-4 defensive ends versus 4-3 defensive ends and defensive tackles, he tries to mesh those two things together as best as possible. And so, if you're capable of understanding all that stuff, and it's not about going to Cornell because there aren't, Jalix Hunt went to Cornell, but
My
there aren't going to
grandfather
be a
went to
lot
Cornell.
there.
Shout out to my grandfather.
Yeah, there aren't going to be a lot of Ivy League players, but it's about football IQ. Like Jalen Carter has a high football IQ. And you could see what Vic Fangio did for him in 1 year. And that's a guy with talent, so it shows up. Not that Seth didn't have talent, but not at that level. So it was an interesting discussion, but I would say of that group, the smart guy, that's who I want, football-wise.
What about prototypical football on the field? Does anybody fit Vic Fangio's scheme from that perspective? I think he has had. I think based on what I saw last year, he has success with uber athletic guys that are versatile. You could see it with Jalix even is a good example of a guy that was supposed to be developmental and contributed to some extent in year one. Nolan Smith is a little undersized, but an athletic guy. You go back to Van Ginkel, Andrew Van Ginkel. He loves guys like that. Zach Bond is athletic. That's what I look at. Now, I know that's not the only type of guy that he works with, but those are the guys I look for at the edge, at least right now. And maybe I'm wrong to do that. Is there anybody on the football field or football style that you look for that would fit with Vic Fangio?
Well, I mean, you got to be athletic to play football, but
They're all
obviously
athletic, but you know what I mean. Some people
yeah,
are.
the Jalen Carters but Zach's a good example. He moved Zach because of his football IQ. He thought he had the instincts to play off ball linebacker. So obviously he got the athleticism. So it is, yeah. I think it's more about and with somebody like Jalen Carter, and I put him in a different category because he's so gifted. You're going to have to screw up, and Vic said that you're going to have to screw that up. I mean, anybody, he's going to be good with anybody. That's how good he is. But there aren't a lot of players like that. And for the other ones, I think it's more important that, yeah. And you bring up Jalix is a very smart guy. Nolan's a very high football IQ guy. They all have that. Van Ginkel, you go outside the organ, tremendously high football IQ guy. I think that's the bigger deal because his defense is it's more complicated. And it's funny because it's simple to play, but it's complicated in the frame of what you're asking the players to do versus what typically they like to do, which is just go pin their ears back and go a million miles an hour. That's why, Sidney Brown's got to learn to tamper down on, and be more disciplined. So it's not like it's sitting here and saying, you got to be a rocket scientist, but in a football sense, you have to understand situations. Like a lot of guys, everybody assumes that of quarterbacks, and with quarterbacks, it's kind of built in. You got to know how the whole offense plays. You got to know how everything fits. You have to know the why. Everybody understands that because of the position. Same thing's the case on defense, in Vic's defense. Like typically defensive linemen, in most schemes, I would say 95% of schemes, they have no idea what the back end's doing. That's not, they don't care. It's not their job. With Vic, it's part of their job because they can only do certain things depending on what coverage he's called, depending on what formation is on the offense. So that's why I say the high football IQ guys.
Right, makes sense. Got to be able to consume or adapt to what Vic is asking you to do. We'll see how it ends up in the NFL draft. Should be interesting. Just 30 days away, as I mentioned. Eagles are sitting at 32 and 64 in round number 2. We'll see if they shake and bake. We've talked a lot about trying to trade back because I think it's likely. I mean, that's what the Eagles will do, especially if there's quarterbacks that are sitting there that teams are interested in, can maybe maximize, trading out of that pick. But can we bring some clarity? I know we've talked about this before, but I want to bring more clarity to it. What do you get? Okay, because I see people trade back, get another second round pick. I'm like, I don't think you're getting another second round pick. You might get a day 3 pick and then a mid second rounder, back from, obviously you're trading back, and then add a day 3 pick on top of it or something like that. That's in my head what I think you would get. I don't know how far off I am. John, what do you think they would get if they trade back? Let's say they trade back to 40, where they picked Cooper DeJean last year. What type of assets are you going to get back for that?
Well, it depends on the player. If it's a position player, you're getting less than if it's a quarterback, and that's why everybody's hyper focused on quarterback at 32 overall, because it's happened. That's sort of like the spot where if you like a guy at the end of the draft, you want the 5th-year option from the team trading, so then you can get some more. As I said, teams are willing, whether it's Patrick Mahomes, at the time that Kansas City got destroyed because they're like, what are you doing? Trey Lance, which didn't work out. What are you doing? But they're willing to give up more for a quarterback than a traditional position player. So that's number one. If you go back to 2018, the Eagles traded down from 32 to 52. All right. What did they do? They gave they traded their second round. They traded their first round selection. So that was 32nd overall. And a 4th rounder, which was 132, to Baltimore, in exchange for 52 in the second round. So you went down to 52. They got a 4th round pick back. So they got 125. So really all they did, they moved up 7 spots in the 4th round, and they got a future second round pick, which is
valuable.
Right. And Howie has always considered that a market inefficiency in the NFL, because most teams do not value future picks as much as they value current picks. It's understandable because most GMs are not in concrete situations like the New York Giants would be. They can't worry about the future. Joe Shane can't worry about the future. He doesn't have a future unless he has a present.
Right.
Howie he can do different things. Interestingly, Baltimore is a very stable organization, so they still gave it up for a quarterback, though. A quarterback. You ain't getting that for a position player.
That's my point. I said it yesterday on the show. The Eagles should be boosting PR money into boosting up the draft stocks of Jalen Milroe, Jackson Dart, and the rest of the quarterbacks in the class, because I don't know. I heard a little bit of rumblings, John, that people like Jalen Milroe now and might take a chance on him. He's meeting with Pittsburgh. I'm like, I wouldn't do it, but you never know with an NFL
I wouldn't do it either, but it's not a big if somebody wants a quarterback, you can get something valuable. If somebody wants a defensive end, you can get something valuable from your standpoint, but not nearly as valuable. You're not getting a second round pick unless they're coming up to get a quarterback. So if you look at the traditional trade chart, 32 was worth 590. So you said 40 is worth 500. So you're getting 90 points in back in theory on paper. That's an early 4th round pick.
Early 4th rounders worth 90.
Yeah. So you're talking about 4th round, not second round. Now quarterback changes the equation. This still would probably have to be future second round. But quarterback changes the equation.
No
And
doubt
that's
about it.
why it's about, pumping up Jackson Dart.
Yeah.
Hey, I've seen people say the Giants are going to take Jackson Dart if they can't get a quarterback early and trade back and
The
trade
Giants
up.
should take Shedeur Sanders.
The Giants should disband and start over. Because they're screwed.
Because that option has been ruled out officially by the Maras, they should take Shedeur Sanders. I think so. I'm surprised that you're not a little bit higher on him.
No, they're screwed. They could have gotten a quarterback last year, and they didn't do it.
Yeah,
and now they're stuck, and they have the quarterback. And don't get me wrong, they're probably going to take him. And it's going to screw up their organization for 5 or 10. Not that he's, again, not that he's a bad player. He could develop, but you're talking about the New York Giants. Again, I'm playing the odds when I say this. So I know people are, McMullen said he can't be a good player. No, if he got in the right situation in 2 or 3 years and they developed him properly, maybe he can turn into it. I saw a comparison to, I think it was DJ compared him to Brock Purdy, a 7th round pick.
Oh, DJ did that because I saw Ian. That's what our boy Ian Cummings did as well.
Maybe Ian, I don't know. It was one of the guys I trust. Maybe it was Ian. So from a trade standpoint, not and Brock Purdy, by the way, is very successful. But again, look who he's with. With Kyle Shanahan and a very good team, and what has been a very good team and a very good organization. That's not the New York Giants right now. It's not worthy of it being a top 5 pick from a physical standpoint. That's what I'm saying. But they have to take him because they're a dumb organization with a dumb owner who has put them in this situation where he's got lame ducks who are GMing for their jobs, like I was saying, and they can't do what they want to do. Right. And maybe they're so dumb they would do the wrong thing. And I know everybody will pile on Joe.
Well, maybe this situation works for the Giants because if they did what they wanted to do, it wouldn't work out anyway.
Well, yeah, people would say that because of Saquon, but that was the right decision. I say it all the time.
Oh, yeah, I don't
New
think
York Giants
about that. Yeah, I agree.
Now, the Eagles fan, what are you talking about? You really think Saquon's running for 2,500 yards with the New York Giants last year? Come on. It was great.
They did decide to pay Daniel Jones and then move off of him the next year and had like 4 or 5 games into the year. I mean, they're not making good decisions outside of Saquon either.
The point is he was there for 6 years.
No, I know. I'm not disagreeing with you. If I were the Giants GM, I probably wouldn't have signed Saquon Barkley back either because it wouldn't work there. I get
they weren't prepared for a running back. They shouldn't have taken him in the first place.
Yeah.
And they weren't prepared to take advantage of a good running back. The Eagles were. That's why it worked here. Things can make sense in one situation and not make sense in another situation. That seems very difficult for people to understand. So for people that, all I'm trying to say by bringing that up is people that, we'll always make the wrong decision. No, that was the right decision. Not, paying Daniel Jones was the wrong decision. And they should have seized the moment and taken whomever they liked, whether it was trading up to get Drake May, who I heard they liked, whether it was, making sure they got J.J. McCarthy, who they also liked, or even Penix or Bo Nix. That's what they should have done. That was a chance to seize the moment and get a quarterback. Now, I don't necessarily believe in McCarthy or Penix or Bo Nix gave some really positive signs as a rookie, and I'm sure he's going to be fine. I don't know he's going to be a star, but I'm sure he's going to be fine. Either way, all of them would be better options at quarterback than Shedeur Sanders. And now they have to take Shedeur Sanders they might even have to trade up at 2 or 3. It's just awful. Awful roster management to be in that situation.
No,
but you can say the same thing about Tennessee. Because Cam Ward's a legit first-round pick, but he's probably should be 15, 20. But they had to take him number 1 overall.
They got it. What are you going to put your trust in Will Levis? Come on, I'm not seeing it with him.
Yeah, either am I. But I'm saying they're in a position where they have to take him. Yeah. That's exactly why the Eagles draft-proof their roster, so you're not in that position. Now, it's also why the Eagles are good, and they don't have to make these crappy decisions. Usually you're at the top of the draft, not always, rare instances, but usually you're at the top of the draft on merit because you stink. I mean, how do you stink? You make a bunch of bad decisions.
So do you think Abdul Carter's going top 3?
No, probably not. Top 5, but
who do you think the Browns are going to take?
Well, they might take Sanders. And then you start talking about another bad organization,
right?
Bad decisions.
It's a shame because I thought Andrew Berry.
Although I think Andrew does a decent job with contracts and that kind of stuff. But their problem is the owner and the contract with the quarterback and all that kind of stuff. They actually had a pretty good roster.
They went to the playoffs with Baker Mayfield.
Yeah. So I wouldn't put them quite in the same category. And I would say Sanders has a better shot in Cleveland because they have a guy who understands quarterback play at least. And not that Brian Daboll doesn't. So I shouldn't say that because he does as well. But I just would be more trusting of Cleveland as a whole than the New York Giants.
We'll see what they end up doing. We'll see what they all do in the top 5. You got Tennessee, Cleveland, New York Giants. Then you have New England.
And they're not taking a quarterback. They're not taking a quarterback. So, 4 or 5 is where you start talking about the positional players. I'm sure the Giants are trying to jockey to get up.
How about the Jets sitting at 7?
Yeah, they might have to.
And Raiders at 6.
Think about where they are. I mean, think about these teams: Tennessee, the Giants, Jacksonville, Las Vegas, the Jets, Carolina. It's just, who can you trust to make a good decision?
No, you can't trust any of them. Honestly, the one I trust to make a decision is Andrew Berry.
Exactly, Cleveland. At least you notice I didn't.
That's why I thought Abdul Carter would go there because I thought.
I got a good friend who's a New York Jets fan. I don't know if you're a Curb Your Enthusiasm fan. You're not a TV fan, but there was a great episode where Larry David has a friend named Carl who loves the Jets so much, and they're so terrible. And eventually, it was the year Le'Veon Bell got hurt, and he was so upset he died. And the Jets killed Carl was the whole premise of it, because he had went through his whole life just with constant disappointment. And I'm sitting and I can't help thinking about that every single and there's a team that is hitching their wagon to Justin Fields at quarterback. If Carl could come back to life, the Jets would kill Carl again.
I hate to see it. Look, we got Frank Dolo in the chat, our resident Jets fan, who pops up. He says, "Not us," with a laughing face. Frank, you took in some strays this morning, brother. I apologize. We appreciate you being here on Birds 365, though. All right, Johnny Mac, good stuff. We'll see.
Hopefully the Jets don't kill Frank. Take it, it's not the end of the world.
I don't think so. Frank's laughing in the chat. He's watching an Eagles show because it's a little happier over in these parts. Frank is not Carl. He's in a good spot, I can tell. But you look at the rest of that top 10. John mentioned Carolina. New Orleans picks number 9. Could they take a quarterback? I could see it. And then you have Chicago at number 10. So it's 1 Tennessee, 2 Cleveland, 3 Giants, 4 New England, 5 Jacksonville, 6 Raiders, 7 Jets, 8 Panthers, 9 Saints, 10 Bears. So those are your top 10 picks. And then you get into some of our rivals. San Francisco picks at 11, Dallas picks at 12. So we'll see what they do at 11 and 12. But good stuff, Johnny Mac. We'll see how the board shakes out. I got a feeling the run on quarterbacks will happen. They could all. There, 3 could go in that top 10. Are the Saints going to take a quarterback? Does Kellen Moore want a quarterback?
Who are you going to take?
I don't know.
Yeah.
Jackson Dart.
Boy. I mean, this is just not a quarterback draft. And Cam Ward and Shedeur Sanders are going. But again, if this were last year, you don't even start talking about Cam Ward till Drake May's gone. So 4th potentially, and you can make a strong argument that he shouldn't even have went 4th of the group last year. Sanders, no, all 6. He starts at 7. And the rest of them, you could argue they're day 3 picks. But they're not going to be. And that's a situation where you don't want to be in. You don't want to be in. But bad teams are in it. And they're desperate. I just made fun of the Jets. Now I'll defend them. Yeah, I'd rather have Justin Fields than Dart or Milrow.
I don't know if I can go there. I don't know.
At least he's got physical. At least he's got top tier physical gifts.
Well, if you're going to say that, then shit, just draft Jalen Milrow with your 2nd round pick.
Well, he's the most physically gifted of this group, but he's not Justin Fields.
I think he's more physically gifted than Fields.
I don't think so. That dude is. I'm just talking athletic.
Yeah,
purely athletic. I mean, he processes with a sundial. So, I mean, that's his problem.
I'm not saying that ain't true. I'm talking about strictly athleticism because Justin Fields, I mean, come on, he's not the best at playing the quarterback position either.
No, no, he's terrible.
Yeah.
I'm saying I'd rather have him with at least some experience than any of the 2nd-tier quarterbacks in this draft.
Where's Frank Dolo? Is he in? Frank, are you still in here? Would you rather have Justin Fields start or Jalen Milrow start? All right. We'll see what Frank has to say about that. Johnny Mac, good first segment here talking about the draft. Talked about Kendall Lamb, all right, who's been signed to the Eagles offensive tackle, newest offensive tackle in the room, 32-year-old former undrafted guy. So we'll see what he adds to the room, to the depth in that room. We got 2 good segments coming up. All right, get ready, everybody, because fireworks might go in the chat, on the show. You never know. We're going to talk a little Jalen Hurts, a little Eagles offense, a 2025 preview. What's it got to look like? What has to change this year? We'll talk about all of that on the show, and that could create some conversation in the chat as well. And then one other segment I want to get to today, I want to talk about Nakobe Dean, okay? What is Nakobe Dean's outlook in Philly? I know it's a tough conversation coming off that injury, but unfortunately, I think it's bleak for Nakobe because of the injury at the timing. I think it's a tough one for him. So we'll talk about those 2 things coming up soon here on Birds 365. Any super chats we get, we will read. So appreciate all of you guys for being here. Don't forget to hit that like button. You guys have been excellent all off season long. Just 30 days away from the NFL draft. So hit that like button. We'll be right back on Birds 365.
The following is a real testimonial from the father of a young injured victim.
I didn't think she was going to make it.
Major Perry's daughter was the victim of a horrific accident caused by someone else's negligence.
If you don't find the right counselor, law firm that you're looking for, you will get lost in the wilderness.
Badly injured? Call the Fritz and Bianculli Law Firm at 215-458-2222 and find out why they say, "We got this."
Your financial future is on the line. Are you ready for what's next? At Leone & Company Wealth Management, we help young professionals, business owners, and pre-retirees navigate the complexities of building and protecting wealth. For young professionals, we'll help you grow your wealth, plan for your future, and make the most of your hard-earned dollars. For business owners, we provide strategies to protect your company, manage risks, and create a lasting legacy for both your business and personal wealth. For pre-retirees, we'll design a plan to secure your retirement, ensuring you can live comfortably and confidently in your next chapter. Whether you're just starting out, managing a thriving business, or preparing for retirement, we're here to help you take control of your financial future. The first consultation is on us. Get the advice you need without the cost. Let's make your financial vision a reality. Take the next step. Scan the QR code to schedule your free consultation today. And of course, go Birds.
Field of life, First Trust Bank is there for you.
Champions on 3. 1, 2, 3.
Because Philadelphia dreams deserve a Philadelphia bank.
In our hometown, we all look out for each other. We step up to keep our communities going strong. And at Independence Blue Cross, we're here to keep you going strong as the #1 health insurer in the region. No IBX is always looking out for you.
EAGLES, Eagles.
Welcome back in, everybody, to a Tuesday edition of Birds 365 here on JAKIB Sports. If you're new to the show, welcome in. 8 to 10 o'clock every day, every morning here on JAKIB Sports, covering the Philadelphia Eagles, giving you all the news, the latest insights, analysis, and inside information. I'm your host, Zander Krause. That's my co-host, John McMullen. Make sure you guys give him a follow on X at JF McMullen and follow me on X at Real Zander. Johnny Mac, I want to get into the Eagles offense first. We'll kick Nakobe Dean later on into hour number 2. We'll talk about him later on in the show. Let's talk Eagles offense. Let's talk Jalen Hurts. Let's talk what the evolution of this offense has to look like moving forward, John.
So, we got to get to OTAs. Same as last year. You're going to hear a bunch of motion, a bunch of getting people involved, a bunch of all that. And we're going to see if it sticks. But you're going to hear about it. And you should hear about it. There's nothing wrong with trying to evolve the offense and trying to get more aspects involved and trying to get more creative and trying to get more modern and everything. Everybody criticized the Eagles for last season, coming into last season out of 2023. The exact same thing. You're going to hear the exact same thing, trying to evolve that offense, trying to get more people involved, trying to get more creative. And then they're going to scale it back when the season starts and try to win games. And that's what they should do, by the way. All of that is correct. But I think, when they get back to the regular season, it's going to look familiar. Because it's looked familiar under Nick Sirianni, Shane Steichen, Brian Johnson, Kellen Moore, and Kevin Petullo has been there the whole time. So it's going to look similar, is how I would bet. But there's no harm in trying to evolve, and that's what you should do. That's what you should do.
Yep.
But Saquon Barkley ain't leaving. That offensive line ain't leaving. So I think it's with the exception of Mekhi Becton, but you get my point. Still going to be a really good offensive line. So they're going to lean on those guys.
No doubt about it. Johnny Mac brings up evolving the offense. You look at last season, everybody, the Super Bowl championship run. You had the #1 overall defense in the NFL, and they played like it all the way through the finish. And you could argue the defense, was the bigger catalyst for winning games last year than the offense was. John, in your estimation, does that have to change this year? Does the offense have to take on more of the burden of getting the team across the finish line this year?
Not necessarily. You know, the defense is a bigger question because of all the losses, and you're going to have to see how they persevere through that. With the offense, look, we talked about it all the time. At times it looked very ugly. We got into the Carolina game a little bit yesterday. I mean, that was probably the low point. Should have lost that game. That was probably the you know, you can get away with that in the regular season. And then you have this theme of, and again, all the fans hate it, but that's fine. But the players were talking about it, and Jalen Hurts was talking about it. And he said, with all these cryptic comments about, is it going to be there when you need it? You know, if you don't use it, do you lose it? That type of thing. And when it mattered most, the NFC Championship game, the Super Bowl, the offense delivered.
Right.
You know, the Super Bowl was probably Saquon Barkley's least effective performance of the year. And the other part stepped up. And they scored 55 points in the NFC Championship game. Now, I still think the defense was the story of the Super Bowl more than anything else, but you know, I'm not sure. But if you're the coaches, I'm not sure you want to lean on that formula. That's their thought process. Like, great, it worked, but if we want to do it again and they want to do it again, do you really want to go down that path, or do you really want a more well-balanced, consistent week-to-week offense? Which I think the answer is obvious to the non-revisionist historians, but obviously because they won the Super Bowl, there's a lot of revisionist historians. Luckily, I don't think the Eagles believe that. I think they know they need to get better and more consistent in the passing game, and they will work to do that.
When you say evolve the offense, John, what exactly do you mean by that? Like, what part of the offense do you want to evolve? Is it as simple as the passing game because it was 29th? Or when you say that, just break it down for me. What does that mean?
Well, all the nonsense stuff. And by the way, this is not me. That's mainly the motion stuff, all the stuff you hold about Kellen Moore coming in about, well, you got to get new ideas. They don't use motion. They don't do this. They don't do that. They don't look creative. The route concepts. All the nonsense about that. That's not necessarily what they need to get better at. What they need to get better at is just the execution of the offense, which is far more boring. Like, I don't care if they run motion. You know, I don't care if they're trying to you know, there's a lot of different ways you can do things. And a lot of quarterbacks, and I've explained this on the show before, like to do things a certain way. Phillip Rivers is a guy that Nick Sirianni loved from their short time in Indianapolis together. One of the smartest quarterbacks you're ever going to come across. He didn't like motion. He preferred to read defenses by manipulating the formation and seeing what they were in. That's what he liked. And that's sort of what Nick leaned to, because Jalen Hurts is a little bit similar from that aspect. He didn't like it. Other quarterbacks want motion, and they want to see what defenses are going to react to motion. So it's always dependent on who your talent is, what they like, what they're most comfortable with. But you can do it a bunch of different ways. There's no reason from the Eagles standpoint, when you have Jalen Hurts and A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith and Dallas Goedert, who's still here, and we'll see if that continues. There's no reason you shouldn't have a top-tier passing offense. And I haven't. They're good. They're very good. But, you know, people say they have the best talent. And they may not. I mean, that might be, there's a couple teams in the conversation, but they're certainly top 5 when you talk about skill position players. Right. So why aren't they a top 5 offense, passing offense specifically? Obviously, they're a top 5 running offense. And I haven't been for 2 consecutive years, but they got really bad last year down at the bottom of the league. And that's ridiculous. Like, we're nitpicking. These are rich people. Probably they won the Super Bowl.
Right.
But their passing numbers were ridiculously poor.
Right, but are we in the case? And I know you're going to say it's revisionist. I know we talked about the passing. I'm not trying to be revisionist. I'm just trying to play devil's advocate and ask the question: are we being prom queenie? Like, because it doesn't look the way we want it to look, or it's not a pretty passing game? Like, they were a top 10 offense. They did win the Super. You know what I mean? Like, they did put up 145 points in the playoffs. I know the passing game could have been better. I mean, you can always get better, in theory, but is it a little too nitpicky? Is it a little too trying to be the prom queen, trying to be sexy on offense?
Well, because, if you look at A.J. Brown, if you look at Darius Slay, if you look at DeMonte Smith and some of their comments about winning the Super Bowl, and people are like, wow, they're not that jazzed up about winning the Super Bowl. And I always say, with them, it's about the process. It's about, they're always trying to get better, and it's an accomplishment. Right. It feels good in the moment. And then they go back to the people they are, the competitors they are. They go back to, all right, what now? And they got to get better, and they got to get better. And that's their mindset. And that's a good thing.
I agree.
That's the coach's mindset. We got to get better. They had a top, they had a top 10 offense in 2023, and everybody thought they sucked to the point that they had to fire the offensive coordinator.
I use that in my other segments all the time, and I reference you. They had the 23, the offense was top 10, and everybody was, up in arms.
So what's the difference? They didn't win games. If they had the number 1 defense at Vic Fangio in 2023, they might have been just as good. So the goal is you want to get better at what you're not doing. Nobody's perfect, even the Super Bowl champions. And you want to get better. You always want to get better. And that's where they are on offense. That's where they were on offense last year. But yeah, they want to get, there's no harm in saying there's room for improvement.
No, I don't think there is either.
Well, I'm not saying you, but there's a lot of fans who bristle and get upset when you dare point out that, hey, you know what, this passing game wasn't that good,
right?
And considering the talent they have, it should have been better. I don't know how anybody can argue that, especially because generally the people arguing about it said it was so shitty the year prior because they didn't win games because their defense was so shitty the year prior, and it was actually better from a passing standpoint. So if that's not good enough, why is this good enough? The answer is it isn't. They just
how much does Saquon Barkley tip the scales there? I mean, because here's the thing I think is an uphill battle for that side of the conversation. And I don't disagree with it. I'm not saying you're wrong. But you add Saquon Barkley, who has a historic running season in the NFL. So naturally, the passing game regresses a little bit because you have a guy who's running at a historic pace. And then when push came to shove, when it was the most important time of the year in the NFC Championship game in the Super Bowl, they were able to pass successfully. So even for the people who will say this isn't an issue, it'd be hard for me to brush them off and say, no, you're wrong, because they're right. Last year, when we thought it was going to be an issue, it proved to not be an issue, and they were able to pass successfully when they needed to win a game. I think that's the other side of it. Now, I'm not saying you're wrong. Again, I think you can improve the passing game, but how much merit do you how much do you put into what I just said on the other side of it as well?
Not much, because that's the old correlation doesn't equal causation type thing. For that to hold water, here's what people, and don't get me wrong, I'm sure a bunch of people believe this, but I guarantee you the Eagles don't believe this. You're not going into 2025 saying, All right. Saquon's going to run for 2,504 yards again.
Yeah, that's fair.
So, you can either be realist or is it possible? I mean, he's phenomenal. He might do 25-10. He might get better. But again, I'm playing the odds here. And even if he runs for 1,600 yards in the regular season, and if you make another Super Bowl run and he gets near 2,000 in a Super Bowl run, that would be historic. But it wouldn't be this year. So to lean on that and say, well, all right, one of the big criticisms of Nick Sirianni coming off 2022 when they lost the Super Bowl was he did an interview where he said, we just got to improve basically, and I'm paraphrasing, but he gave an interview and he said, we just have to improve what we do. We have to get better at what we do. And a lot of people killed him because of what went on the next year and they didn't evolve offensively. And that became a big thing. And Jeffrey Lurie insisting he had to go outside the organization, yada, 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 to get new ideas and fresh ideas, and which looked awfully like the old ideas. So even that, and I don't necessarily believe Nick was wrong, but you have to understand you're in a public facing industry and you have to spin things the proper way. And when you lose in the first round of the playoffs, you have to spin things a little bit differently than if you win the Super Bowl. So they have the luxury of just sitting under the radar because everybody's going to trust them. But I think they're smart enough to understand they need to get better in the passing game. And they'll be working the entire offseason. I said that before they won the Super Bowl. They're gonna go back to what they did last offseason.
Right. They're going to try and improve the passing game. But here's the thing. I mean, I think we can all agree that if you're playing the odds, it's very unlikely that Saquon has 2,500 yards again. As much as we all love Saquon, statistically speaking, the chances are slim of him doing that again. But John, again, the rebuttal would be the times that happened last year, the times when Saquon was taken out of the game. Granted, there were few of them. There weren't that many, so the sample size isn't the biggest in the world. But the team did pass the ball well. I go to that Pittsburgh game. Jalen threw the ball all over the yard there. Saquon only had 65 yards, I think, in that game. Commanders NFC title game, Super Bowl. So if we're saying, okay, Saquon has a lesser year this year, let's say he gets 1,700 yards, which is still an incredible season, by the way. Okay, well, the offense last year made up for the difference when he wasn't Superman. Why would they not do it again moving forward?
Well, I think you're ignoring all the games where they performed poorly in the passing game and managed to persevere because of the defense, or even if it wasn't Saquon or other aspects of the team. So the point is only, and that's why I brought up AJ, Devontae, and their Darius Slay, he's going to kill me, and their personal sort of mindsets. You're trying to get better because of the bad games, not the good games.
Right.
I always say with scouting, we're talking about the draft. We're going to talk about the draft. Don't look at the freaking highlights. Look at the bad plays and figure out, all right, what happened? Can he correct this? Don't look at the highlights. Look at the Carolina game. Look at some of the poor passing performances. And there were a shitload of them that people forget because winning cures everything. That's what you want to improve.
Receivers want their numbers, and I'm not criticizing them for that. I love AJ. I love Devontae. I don't have a problem with them wanting to be better. But at the end of the day, they're going to have a lens that they wear that is filtered through wanting more yards, wanting more receptions.
I'm not worried about what AJ and Devontae
That doesn't mean it's
say.
right for the team, right for the team.
No, getting better offensively is right for the team. I'm not talking about numbers. The only numbers that count for A.J. Brown, the only real numbers that count for A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, they already have, and that's their bank account. So they're getting paid.
That's true.
So they're happy from that standpoint. Now, all wide receivers, yes, want the football. And if you had a wide receiver that doesn't want the football, you don't want that wide receiver. So I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the efficacy of the passing game, which again, if you want to look at traditional numbers, whatever it was, 29th. If you want to look at advanced numbers, it wasn't good. Nick Sirianni constantly says you never want to be bottom 5 in anything in the NFL.
Yeah, I think we can all agree to that as Eagles fans. I mean,
Well,
come on,
then
we don't want to be
I
bottom
think a lot of
five. We
people.
don't want to be bottom 5.
I think a lot of people don't because they say that. And again, the path is, and maybe it is that Jalen Hurts just steps up in big situations because I know people like that narrative. But again, if you're a coach, you really want to count on that. Like you're showing up in your office, you're kicking off your shoes and you're saying, well, this guy's going to show up at big spots. So I just got to get to a big spot. No, you want to improve. You want to try to get better. And by the way, that's not the case. They're trying to get better every day. I'm just saying it's common sense. They want to get better in the passing game. And I wonder why everybody struggles with that. Like, why wouldn't you want them to get better in the passing game? I guess I don't even understand it. Like, why do you want to be bottom 5?
There's a line of thinking that because we're so good in the running game, that's one of the reasons we're not as good in the passing game. And people in Philly like to run the ball. They want to be the bully. They like being the physical team. And that's what we've established as an identity now as a football team. And not only did they establish that identity, but that identity brought the city its second Super Bowl in franchise history. And now fans are going to cling to that even more. And I can't really knock them for it.
Well, I don't think it's knocking them to point out that it's not. Again, it's not something you can count on from year to year. You're not going to have. That was literally the greatest rushing season in NFL history. That is the definition
every year.
That is the definition of an outlier. All right. Could in theory, is it possible it could happen again? Of course, anything's possible. Again, if you're playing the odds,
it's not.
They've been playing this game for a long time. The Eagles have been around since 1933. I mean, obviously they play more games and all that factors into it. And, but so just take it down to the modern generation. 25 years since Terrell Davis did it. Quarter century. You had a quarter century gap between Terrell Davis and Saquon Barkley. And you think you're going to have a 1-year gap between that season? I don't like those odds.
I don't disagree with you. What was our running game ranked when we had Miles Sanders and then DeAndre Swift? We were still top 5, weren't we?
They were tremendous, but I don't know if they were top 5. I'd have to look it up, but they were always good. Yeah. They were always very effective. Nobody ran for more 200-yard games in the Nick Sirianni era.
Yeah, John, what was the season? You'll remember this. What was the season? It might have been 22. I wasn't on the air for this season, but there was one season we led the NFL in rushing yards per game, and we didn't have a running back that ran over 100 yards in the game or something like that. It was some crazy stat like that.
I don't recall it, but yeah, I mean, ever since this offensive line, they've always been effective running the ball. It's just levels of effectiveness. And as I point out, before Saquon ever showed up in the Sirianni era, they had more 200-yard rushing games than any team in the NFL. I mean, and it's not about Nick, it's about the offensive line. I mean, the offensive line is, again, Miles made the Pro Bowl. Miles isn't a Pro Bowl running back, but he made the Pro Bowl. DeAndre made the Pro Bowl. Not a Pro Bowl running back. They're good backs, but they made the Pro Bowl. And now you got a legitimate superstar back behind that offensive line, and you saw what happened. Now you're still going to have that legitimate top-tier back behind that top 5 offensive line. And, we'll see how I do think Becton was a perfect fit. I do think they're going to miss him. I do think there was something to the power he brought inside and some of that bully ball that you were talking about. I do think he's going to be more difficult to replace than people think, so it won't be quite as good. and all of this sort of factors in. Still going to be really good, but it's not going to be historically good. Odds are.
John, we're talking about the offense here, and we're leaving one big name we haven't mentioned much in this discussion, and that's quarterback Jalen Hurts. What's next for Jalen Hurts in this offense, John?
Same thing. Got to get better. Got to get better. Everybody's got to get better. Tom Brady's got to get better. And the more you play, the more experience, the more comfortable you feel, the more you can manipulate things at the line of scrimmage. And that should continue to progress. It'd be nice to see him get more people involved, spread the football out a little bit more. That would, I think, make things more difficult for the defense. So there's plenty of ways to improve, and that's everybody, from the Elite Four, as they say, on down. That's everybody. And Jalen's no different. Just people get very butthurt in this town when people dare to mention that there's room for improvement. And he'd be the first one to tell you. Nobody's perfect.
Gotta get over that. I mean, it's one thing to not want your team to be disrespected, but look, everybody wants to improve, especially people that are driven in life. Everybody wants to get better, regardless of what pinnacle you reach. So I think we should all be able to come to the conclusion that if you went and talked to Jalen Hurts and said, "Hey, Jalen, what are you doing this offseason?" He would say, "I'm trying to get better. I'm working on my game. I'm working on this." He was already training out with his family at Channelview in Texas. So he's going to be doing that. Everybody's got to move on from that nobody has to get better. But
I don't get it. But yeah, one of the things that, because I think people only hear the negative, I think, one of the things I harped on after the 2023 season is that the history of Jalen Hurts is he's not going to turn the football over. He's going to take care of the football.
And that's a good thing. His turnover rate is really good.
Yeah. And it was really good before 2023, and it regressed back to the mean.
Yep.
As I predicted it would.
Yes, you did.
Now, I think he was too hyper-focused on it, and that's part of the reason it was so low. So I think he's got to get back to, it's a fine line. You got to get back to trusting yourself and
protecting the ball versus taking chances.
Exactly.
How do you walk that line?
So I think he's got to get better. Got to get better with that. But he's a very good quarterback. And he was a very good quarterback before the Super Bowl. And he's a very good quarterback after the Super Bowl. He's going to be a very good quarterback when the 2025 season starts. But I'm not going to lie to the people and say he's in that top 4 group. He's not in that top 4 group. Not wrong with it. It's very difficult to get that top 4 group. He's a very good player, but there's room for improvement. Anybody who doesn't see that is, you're just drinking the Kool-Aid.
Yeah, well, I'm not drinking Kool-Aid, and I think he's amongst those top 4. I think he's in that top 5. I'm with Devontae. Make it top 5, put him in there, because I don't think talent is the only thing that matters in the NFL. I don't think talent is the only thing
those guys aren't in the top 4 because of just talent. I mean, and everybody's definition of talent is different. A lot of people just boil it down to athleticism as talent. Particularly at that position, processing is probably way more important than anything else. And being able to get people in being able to line up your offense and get them in the correct situation, as Tom Brady explains. And that's how Tom and Peyton graded themselves. Not about wins, not about losses, not even about touchdowns, is about on every play, did you put your team in the best position to succeed? Not even about succeeding, because sometimes the right guard might miss a block. Sometimes somebody might drop it. but did you as a quarterback put your offense in the best position to succeed? Is how Tom explained it. That's how, the great ones define themselves.
For his first year, I mean, calling coverages, I think he's pretty good at that.
If you want to talk about just pure talent, I don't know if Jaden Daniels, he's in there. He's right there, but he's not in the top 4. Caleb Williams might be ahead of all of them. Just pure spectacular talent. Athleticism, arm talent. He's not even in the top half of NFL quarterbacks. Could he get there? We'll see with Ben Johnson. He's going to have to show up. Trevor Lawrence, just spectacular talent. He's not in the top 4, not even close.
So winning does nothing for you when it comes to quarterback discussions.
I tell you all the time, quarterback evaluation is broken because you can be Matthew Stafford's a best example of this. I used to have this argument with Jody all the time. He sucks. He sucks. He sucks. I said, people in the NFL would disagree with you. He was on a very bad team, a very bad organization, a very bad situation for a lot of years. And he elevated everybody around him and maximized what he had. And that's why he was a great quarterback. And when he got to a situation, even though he's older in his career, where he had a chance to win, he won. And now people say he's great. He was better in Detroit. Way better. I bring this up with John Elway all the time. John Elway was great when he was losing Super Bowls. He was below average when he was winning Super Bowls. But he won Super Bowls late in his career because of Terrell Davis. And he's one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time. But the point is, Ben Roethlisberger had one of the worst Super Bowls ever. But he won. He won the game. And that's lost in history, how poorly he played, because he won the game. Yeah, I by winning, I assume you mean winning Super Bowls. And doesn't mean
but I don't just mean that. That's obviously a part of it. But John, Hurts has been a starter for 4 years, dude.
Yeah,
two Super Bowl appearances, arguably 2 Super Bowl MVP performances.
First of all,
he won one of them in 4 years. Again, I'm not saying he doesn't have a great team around him. I'm not saying the other things don't exist, but I do think he deserves some credit for that. I know he has a great team. The Lions had a great team. I didn't see them in the Super Bowl. I mean, I think he deserves a little bit more credit for going to 2 Super Bowls in his first 4 years as a starter in the NFL and winning one of them. Like, I don't know. That tips the scales for me.
I didn't disrespect Jalen Hurts.
I'm not saying you. I'm just saying for me, that part of it goes into the discussion.
If you would have let me finish, I would say the body of work, the fact that he wins consistently from week to week is more important for me than he won the Super Bowl. If you would have let me finish, the body of the work, I keep saying he was a great quarterback. He was a really good quarterback before the Super Bowl. He's a really good quarterback after the Super Bowl. Again, I can't control what people hear, what people perceive. Is he the top 4? No, he's not the top 4. Is he really good? Yes, he's really good. If that's disrespect, I would tell all those people to look in the mirror and get over it. It's not disrespect.
Well, they could say the same thing back to you. It's an opinion. Your opinion is that he's not top 4. My opinion is that he is top 4. I mean,
that's fine. But that's fine. But how many coaches do you talk to? How many personnel people do you talk to? How many scouts do you talk to?
Yeah, but that's not a perfect formula, because if scouts or personnel people knew everything, then they would be paid higher than quarterbacks, and you would get the best scouts and personnel guys.
They do anything,
and you would win the Super Bowl.
I'm not saying anything, but people say, I don't have the hubris to think I know more than they do. That doesn't mean they're always right. They're human beings. Everybody's always right. But if you get a group together, Like you're talking about Lamar Jackson, you're talking about Patrick Mahomes, you're talking about Joe Burrow, you're talking about Josh Allen. If you ask those guys who do it as a profession, and for some reason people have focused on Joe Burrow because Cincinnati didn't have a good season. And even that's the worst because he almost won MVP with a bad football
deserves a lot
team.
of credit for leading them that team.
There is literally, and I never say nobody because there could always be one outlier, but I don't even think there could be one outlier. There is nobody who will tell you that Jalen Hurts is better than Joe Burrow in the industry. There just isn't. I mean, the Eagles wouldn't even tell you that. I don't know why that upsets people, but it upsets so many people. I mean, it's not close. It's not disrespect. That's like saying, I don't know, LeBron James in his career, whoever was the third best player of the world or the fourth best wasn't LeBron James. All right. Nobody's got any problem with that. All right. I mean, he doesn't belong in the conversation.
The problem with this is that if I rebuttal back, it sounds like I'm saying Joe and Josh and Lamar aren't great. I think they're great. I think Jalen is great. I really do. Nothing in my mind.
Fine. That's fine. But you don't think any of that has to do with you being an Eagles fan?
Well, of course it does. I've been a Jalen Hurts fan my whole life. I mean, I love him in college.
I mean,
yeah, but again, I've said it before on the show. Opinions are overrated. At some point, resume and what you've done speaks louder. Like, let me use an example, and I don't know this, so you have to educate me.
I can't win this argument because it's
not
broken.
An argument, John. Relax. I'm just giving you my opinion.
It's broken. The evaluation is broken.
In your opinion,
debate, whatever you want to call it, the evaluation is broken. There are 46 players on that field. And everybody boils it down to quarterback versus quarterback. How many times I could say Myles Garrett's better than Josh Sweat? Of course. I could say so-and-so is better than so-and-so.
But those positions aren't evaluated like quarterback for a reason.
Yeah, but those positions aren't. The evaluation isn't broken. It's logical. It's broken at quarterback because of the impact of the position and because people put so much focus on the position. Jalen Hurts, and Nick Sirianni said this, and by the way, he was defending Jalen Hurts, and he was 1,000% right. When people say, well, he needs a good team around him to win. Well, so does Buck and Tom Brady. Nobody has won a Super Bowl without a good team around them. It is broken. Yeah. The evaluation of the quarterback position is broken. It is baked in. You cannot win a Super Bowl in the NFL if you don't have a good team around you. A quarterback cannot win a Super Bowl by himself. From Tom Brady or whoever you think the best of all time is on down.
Well, just use the top four that we just talked about. The proclaimed top four. Only one of them have a Super Bowl. It's obvious that you need a good team around them. But my problem with that whole discussion, my problem with that discussion is people use that against Hurts. I'm not saying you, but people out there use that against him. Oh, he has a good team, so he's not elite. But meanwhile, the guys who are elite,
I can't debate for other people. I don't care what other people say or think or perceive to say or people perceive them of disrespecting Jalen Hurts. I can only speak for myself. I can't speak for any of these mystical people. I don't even know who they are. Like, how can I defend what so-and-so says about Jalen Hurts? I can defend what I say about Jalen Hurts. But I don't care what other people say about Jalen Hurts or about people's perceptions of what people think about Jalen Hurts.
All right. I mean, if you're going to go down that road, I don't care about what someone tweets at you, but we talk about it on the show. I mean come on, John.
Well, give me a name and I'll rip them. Give me
a question. I want to go to different. I want to ask you a question because you'd know more about this than me. in 2004, 2005, earlier in Tom Brady's career, and I know Tom Brady's not a good example, but I'm for the sake of the conversation, I'm using it. Early in his career, who were the best quarterbacks in the NFL, and was he viewed as the best as a best quarterback in the NFL as a 6th-round draft?
He was a 6th-round pick. Now, when Drew Bledsoe got hurt, I mean, Tom came in and had the tremendous run, and people thought Drew Bledsoe would be back as the starting quarterback. Right. No, of course not. Of course not. Just constant success and playing at a high level and getting his team in the proper positions. As I said, at some point it becomes undeniable. But you talk about, Tom had far more to overcome than Jalen as a 6th-round pick. Nobody believed in Tom Brady. Nobody.
But isn't the trajectory similar in that he was a 6th-round pick? Everybody looked at Bledsoe and Breeze and Peyton and Ben and all these other dudes that were in the league and said, oh, they have the talent. Those are the top 5 guys. It's not Tom. It wasn't until later when Tom accumulated all the wins. Now, granted, he had great stats and everything. Tom was uber talented, but it wasn't until he accumulated all those accolades that everybody started saying, oh, that's the best player in the world. That's the best quarterback in the NFL.
You're back to everybody. I don't care about everybody, but I've said it pretty consistently to what defined Tom Brady and Peyton Manning, who I think are the 2 best quarterbacks of the modern generation, shall we say. Basically this century are the 2 best quarterbacks. And I said what defined them is, at some point, and I say the same thing with Jalen Hurts. Like Jalen Hurts' overall record is way more impressive to me than his winning the Super Bowl. Like the consistency of week to week and the ability to win games from week to week. I say it constantly. That's what defined Tom Brady and Peyton Manning. They went into a season, New England and Indianapolis. Like I said, the worst, they went into every single season. All right, 10 wins is our low water mark. How good are we going to be from 10 wins? They're going to win double digits. And then they go, are they going to get to 12? Are they going to get to 13? Are they going to get to 14? Are they going to get to 15? It's back when they played 16. In the case of New England, 1 year, 16-0. 1 year, 16-0. The best of all the Patriots teams, by the way. Didn't win the Super Bowl, but the best of all the Patriots teams, 16-0. So to me, that week-to-week consistency, I was just having this discussion with Ed Kratz about the Bills, and I've said this many times, and people look at me like I'm crazy. And they did a 30 for 30 on the Bills that never won the Super Bowl. The great Bills teams with Jim Kelly and Thurman Thomas that made 4 consecutive Super Bowls. And to me, that's more impressive than the one-offs of somebody getting up and winning a Super Bowl, then going back like the Giants with Eli Manning, then going back, they're 9-7, they get hot, they win a Super Bowl, and they go back to being a good team, but not a great team. To me, that's much more impressive. And everybody goes, oh, that's dumb. That's stupid. It's all about winning the Super Bowl. Well, I'd say this. We're at Super Bowl, what we're 59. So 59, over 59 Super Bowls, there's one team
that's going to
made 4 straight Super Bowls.
I think people aren't hearing you right on that one, because you're definitely right. It's more impressive where I think you're wrong, or you didn't say this, but it's probably not more impactful or meaningful.
No, it's not impactful.
In the test of talent. But you're right. It's very impressive to go to 4 straight Super Bowls.
There's only one team that's done it.
Yeah, I hear you on that one for sure. But I'd rather win the Super Bowl. But I understand why you're saying it's impressive to go to 4.
Yeah. So that to me is, and that's where I think, like nobody, again, you can go to every position. I've said this numerous times. You can go to every position and everybody evaluates it correctly. Nobody cares that Josh Sweat won a Super Bowl. Nobody cares that Milton Williams won a Super Bowl. They only care that a quarterback won the Super Bowl. It's not Jalen's fault. It's been this way forever. It's not Eagles fans. It's every fan. It's been this way forever. Dan Marino. Oh, there's a group of people that think Dan Marino stinks because he never won a Super Bowl. That he can't win the big one. It's broken. No other position. No other position. People evaluate it the correct way. I'm not saying there aren't lunatics in every discussion, but for the most part, and I'm talking about people in football, evaluate it the correct way. Well, Myles Garrett's great. Yeah, he's on a bad team, a bad organization. There's good players on Carolina. There's good players. There's really good players on the Giants. There's really, really, really good players on every NFL team, even the bad ones. And nobody has a problem pointing that out because they understand every other position. Quarterback, because of the impact, because it's the highest profile position for whatever reason, everybody wants to boil it down to quarterback versus quarterback. And I've said it pretty consistently. Jalen played better actually in the Super Bowl he lost than he won.
I think that's fair. That was the best game I've ever seen him play, that 22 Super Bowl.
Not that he played poorly in either. He played great at both.
He played unreal in that 22.
Yeah, he played better in the first one. And if you look at 2023, he individually, I think, played better than he did in 2024. And 2022 was his best season, I believe. And I believe last season, other than he started for 4 seasons. If you wanted to put them in order, I would go 2022, just individual performance, 2023, 2024, 2021, when he was a first-year starter, was rightfully, probably his worst season as an individual. But that's how I'd rank them. 2022, 2023.
I'd go 24 before 3, just 20 the turnovers.
2024. Yeah, I know most people go to turn, but I argue he had more to do. He had to lift the team up. I think he was better. 2024, 2021 would be how I would rank his individual seasons. And by the way, he's a hell of a quarterback, and none of that is disrespectful. So people take it as disrespectful. That's on them.
No, that's fine. But the one thing I want to get this point out, because I didn't bring up Brady for some crazy reason. I think early in Brady's career, people probably said he's not the best quarterback in the NFL. Then he gets a couple of rings and people put him at the top. Winning tipped the scales a little bit. Now he had talent. I'm not saying he didn't have talent. Go to Patrick Mahomes. John, best quarterback in the NFL. 3 rings. I get it. If he had no rings, if he had none, let's just say for a second, Patrick Mahomes had 0 rings. Would you take him before Lamar, Josh, or Joe?
Don't take him before Joe. I think Joe's 1, Lamar's 2 right now.
Over Mahomes. But because Mahomes is 1, he's widely regarded as the best quarterback in the NFL. So winning is always going to tip the scales. Now, you individually cannot like that, but it's going to, and it seems to have.
Yeah, I'm not arguing that. I literally am not arguing that. I'm arguing that it shouldn't be that way. No, yeah, I know how it works. I know how it works. I'm not saying it doesn't work that way. I'm saying it's broken. I'm saying people evaluating that is broken. Evaluating things that way is broken. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
I'm not saying they don't do it.
There has to be some point where we reach an objective truth. Like we might hate the system, but if the system is what quantifies Hall of Famers or something like that, then we have to respect it.
No, if it's wrong, no.
Okay, well, I mean, people are kind of like people who are mad at the government.
It's like, well, that's a perfect example because a majority agrees on something doesn't mean it's right. doesn't mean it's right. In a lot of ways, it's wrong because generally people want to be in a group and they want to, in far bigger political discussions, they want to be connected. They want to be in a group, and they make poor decisions because of it. And they don't make logical decisions because of it. And far more important discussions than this. So that holds no weight to me, personally. But when you talk about less important discussions like evaluating quarterback play, yeah, I'm very comfortable in saying it's broken. It's been broken for 50 years. It's never going to be fixed. People are going to overweight Super Bowl championships. I have no issue with it. I know where it is.
All right, that's fine.
But I can point out it's illogical when they look at every other position correctly, and then they change it for one position. That's illogical to me.
So is Tom Brady not the GOAT for you?
I mean, he's in the conversation. I always say, if you're in the conversation, then
that's enough.
Yeah, that's enough.
Yeah, I get it.
If you're top five, you know, you could be Tom or Peyton or Tom or Joe Montana. If you're in the conversation, you're good enough. You know, LeBron or Michael, LeBron, yeah, Will, blah, blah. You're in the conversation. It's good enough. But yeah, then it's basically what's your favorite flavor. But, you know, if you ask me who the best quarterback of all time is, I'd probably say Joe Montana, because I think it was more difficult to play the position.
Yeah,
but that's just
it's hard to argue against Joe Montana.
But that's just, I think it was more difficult to play the position. So to me, it's more impressive. I think it's easier for quarterbacks now.
All right. So there's going to be some subjectivity. I'll take Tom as the GOAT because of all those rings, but I get you. I hear you. All right, Johnny Mac, good discussion on the Eagles offense, on the progression of what that offense is going to look like or what it could look like, should look like. Moving on, we'll continue to talk about that all through the offseason and see, you know, what the Eagles moves they make on the offensive side of the ball. Now you got to get a new guard. Maybe he's already in house. Maybe it's Kenyon Green. Maybe it's Tyler Steen. We'll continue to kick that around all offseason long. John, we'll get the one commercial break. When we come back, we'll recap the final, the little piece of news for those who missed it at the start of the show today. Eagles signed a swing tackle and Kendall Lamb. We did discuss that at the start of the show. And then we're going to talk a little Nakobe Dean. I got to talk to you about Nakobe Dean and what his future looks like, because I think it's bleak just because of the timing of the injury. I know people might not want to hear that, but that's my thought process. Maybe John can set the record straight on that. So we'll do all that next on Birds 365. Thanks, everybody, for being here. Hit that like button. We'll be right back.
The following is a real testimonial from the father of a young injured victim.
I didn't think she was going to make it.
Major Perry's daughter was the victim of a horrific accident caused by someone else's negligence.
If you don't find the right counselor, law firm that you're looking for, you will get lost in the wilderness.
Badly injured? Call the Fritz and Bianculli Law Firm at 215-458-2222 and find out why they say, "We got this."
Your financial future is on the line. Are you ready for what's next? At Leone and Company Wealth Management, we help young professionals, business owners, and pre-retirees navigate the complexities of building and protecting wealth. For young professionals, we'll help you grow your wealth, plan for your future, and make the most of your hard-earned dollars. For business owners, we provide strategies to protect your company, manage risks, and create a lasting legacy for both your business and personal wealth. For pre-retirees, we'll design a plan to secure your retirement, ensuring you can live comfortably and confidently in your next chapter. Whether you're just starting out, managing a thriving business, or preparing for retirement, we're here to help you take control of your financial future. The first consultation is on us. Get the advice you need without the cost. Let's make your financial vision a reality. Take the next step. Scan the QR code to schedule your free consultation today. And of course, go Birds.
field of life, First Trust Bank is there for you.
Champions on three. 1, 2, 3.
Because Philadelphia dreams deserve a Philadelphia bank.
In our hometown, we all look out for each other. We step up to keep our communities going strong. And at Independence Blue Cross, we're here to keep you going strong as the #1 health insurer in the region. No IBX is always looking out for you.
EAGLES. Eagles.
Welcome back in, everybody, to a Tuesday edition of Birds 365 here on JAKIB Sports, inching closer to the NFL draft, just 30 days away. 30 days, 10 hours, and 21 minutes around from the NFL draft. Moving along quick, John. We're almost there to the NFL draft. Seems like
big one too. Big one for the Eagles because I don't think the Tamu offseason is going to do it. I think they got to hit on some draft picks.
Yeah, so no doubt about that. We'll see what they end up doing in the NFL draft. John, just real quickly recap what we hit in the opening segment. I know it's not everybody was here for it. Eagles signed offensive tackle Kendall Lamb. Been in the NFL for a long time. He was an undrafted free agent back in 2015. And he comes to Philly to Jeff Stoutland University. John, just your brief thoughts on Kendall Lamb signing.
Yeah, a lot of experience, traditional swing tackle. So that helps. They lost Fred Johnson. They needed that position, at least an insurance plan. You always hope a younger guy steps up, but if not, I think you got a pretty solid player here. He's played a lot. You mentioned the fact he's undrafted out of Appalachian State. Always impressed by that. He stuck around for a decade in the NFL.
Impressive, man. That's impressive. That means you're doing something right in practices, right?
It's very, very impressive. Started a lot of games the last 2 years too because Teron Armstead was hurt a lot. He's a really good tackle when he's healthy, and he played okay. So I would say it makes a lot of sense. Cheap, and he's not, he's serviceable, and that's what you want in a backup swing tackle. And that's what they had last year with Brett, and I think worst case scenario they'll have it this year with him.
There you go. Kendall Lamb is in to replace Fred Johnson, or presumably to replace Fred Johnson. Still some musical chairs being played with that offensive line. So we'll see who fills in at guard, who becomes a swing tackle. I thought the thing John mentioned was great. Now maybe this changes because of their most recent signing, but I thought the thing you brought up about maybe Tyler Steen becomes the swing tackle and Kenyon Green or the Trevor Keegan becomes the guard. I could see that happening. But maybe
that's why things change quickly, man.
Yep, they do. They sure do, John.
Then they sign one. And that might, still be an option. Look, it's pretty evident the Eagles want a lot of these young players to step up,
right.
But you have to have that safety net, and here's their safety net. And again, we also talked yesterday about how few 30-year-old players. They got a 30-year-old veteran player in.
There you go. Fifth 30-year-old is in the building.
Yeah. So maybe a little bit too young. Maybe Howie was listening to us and said, hey, we're a little bit too young. Let's get Kendall Lamb in here.
There you go. Howie, if you're listening, good job, brother.
I'm exaggerating.
John, let's talk about Nakobe Dean. All right. I want to say this because when I say Nakobe Dean, people think I'm talking about the start of the year. I'm not as worried about that. All right. I understand Nakobe. John, you mentioned you already saw him off the crutches back at the Super Bowl. You think he's ahead of schedule. He even if he's not back week 1, let's say he's back by October 1st. Okay. I think that's generous, but we'll see what he ends up doing. This isn't much about that. This is more about, John, what does the future look like even next year at linebacker? Because you just paid Zach Bond. From my estimation, you're not going to pay 2 linebackers. I mean, it took us long enough to pay 1 linebacker. And now Nakobe is coming off of a tough injury late in the year going into next season. Maybe he has to start on the bench. I'm not saying he could get Wally pipped, but if you are the organization and you're looking at life after Nakobe Dean, if they don't want to extend Nakobe Dean, maybe you want to get Trotter in if he plays good in those first couple of weeks. Maybe you want to go a different route. How do you see the whole Nakobe Dean thing going at the start of the year next year. And I think the conversation muddies once you get later into the year, but we don't have to worry about that just yet. But just the Nakobe Dean stuff, John, how do you see that playing out? I think the Birds are in a tough position with him because of the injury.
Well, in a lot of ways, from the contract standpoint, there might be a silver lining to it, as you kind of pointed out. Do you really want to pay 2 linebackers? Now, Nakobe's not going to be in the Zach Bond level, but he was playing well enough to really get a significant extension. And,
right.
Then it factors into, as you mentioned, how many assets do you have? How many can you pour into it? So in the silver lining to that is you can kind of push it back because you have to see how he recovers. So that might be helpful in a weird way, not helpful to Nakobe, obviously, but for the organization. And then, one of the things, and I was talking about Sidney Brown yesterday and how the Eagles want him to sort of have the opportunity to compete at safety. But there's one look, all I know about Nakobe is way ahead of schedule early in the process. All rehabs are different. Like his Liz Frank injury, that was a difficult rehab, man. That was a difficult rehab. He went from rollabout to crutches to walking boot over a many month period. And he was off crutches after the Super Bowl.
Yeah, it's impressive.
100 clean out day. So all injuries are different. All rehabs to injuries are different. And I bring Sidney because he had a very difficult rehab from his torn ACL. Everybody's, he's got a torn ACL. He'll be back in 9 months. He's got a torn patella. He'll be back in 9 months. Blah, blah, blah. They're all different. So it's way early in the process when I saw Nakobe, but he's way ahead of schedule. I don't think it's going to be nearly as deep into the season as people think, just from the early indications I get. So if he's back on the field and he's playing well, you still have those contract issues, and you still have the thought of, all right, do we want to pay 2 linebackers? And that, you have Jeremiah Trotter Jr. How much do you believe in Jeremiah Trotter Jr.? Well, they believe enough in him that they're not considering paying 2 years to Oren Burks at $2.5 million a year. So they believe in him enough for that they believe in him enough to say he's going to be a starting linebacker in year 2. I don't think so.
And even if they do, does that mean they pay him?
Well, that Trot, they don't have to pay. That is the interesting part of that is if you believe in Trot, do you let Nakobe walk?
Right, that would be the better question.
Year 3, does Trotter take over? That's a possibility. That's a possibility. Just because you've seen it this year. There's certain players. I've talked about that demarcation line, and I don't think Nakobe hits it. I think he's on the C.J. Gardner-Johnson side of that line. Potentially Dallas Goedert side of that line. I don't think he hits it.
Right.
And then comes the difficult decision, plus the injuries on top. He's had 2 serious injuries.
And he's ended 3 straight years, right, on IR?
Yeah, and he's undersized. So, people will bring that up. But, boy, he played well before.
He played really well. I just have a hard time. I mean, it was hard enough for this team to pay a linebacker. Let's be real. I mean, DJ Edwards and Kaiser White both played pretty good. I mean, they weren't Zach Baum, but they were pretty good. Couldn't get them signed. I have a hard time believing they're going to pay Nakobe Dean, and unfortunately, I think the Zach Bond contract muddies the waters a lot because you just paid $15 million, which is out of character for this team, and you're going to pay what, $8 million, $9 million, $10 million to Nakobe Dean, all those injuries. Maybe they would do it if they value the continuity, I guess, of keeping all the Georgia guys together. I don't even know if that's in their thought process, but people like to talk about that. Maybe it's not. I don't know. I don't see it.
I don't think it can't be. It can't be.
It's not a good way to do business.
They have this line and certain guys are above it. and they know guys are above it that are coming, like Jalen Carter and Reed Blankenship and Cam Jurgens. And down the road in 2 years, Quinion Mitchell, Cooper DeJean, those guys are above it. And I think Nakobe's in the CJ category. I think he's below it.
Yeah.
Not for different reasons, but I don't want to.
Different reasons. Yeah. He's not a locker room problem, Nakobe Dean. He's,
No.
Yeah.
That's another part. He is a leader. He is
he's
about
a gold star type of guy.
We talk about this youth on this team. That's why I don't have as much worry about that as some people do, because guys like Nakobe Dean, he's just a natural. Jordan Davis as well. When we
they're a special group of young guys. I do think that for sure. This is definitely a rare breed of young men for sure.
Yeah, and he's in that group, but the Eagles have too many good players, so they got to make difficult decisions.
Yeah.
Rich people problems is the theme of the show.
Yeah,
they got a bunch of rich people problems.
They got like four. They got 4 Lamborghinis, a couple Porsches, a couple Maseratis, all sorts of everything. You got to move on from some of them.
You get off-season content. Ed and I are going to be unfolding our 12 most impactful players, best players for the Super Bowl team. It was tough to get down to 12. It was tough.
I believe it.
What
was the scale? Can you give us a preview of the scale? How many offensive versus defensive players?
I haven't even looked at it. We just did it yesterday. I haven't even tallied up the votes, but I know I wanted to put the entire offensive line on there, but I couldn't.
Yeah, right.
I mean, I considered putting them on there as a group, but I think that does a disservice to them individually. They had too many good players. It's impossible. This is one of the most talented teams in hindsight, and it's hindsight. Everything's hindsight ever. So I don't want to blow up Howie's ego more than it is, but this is one of the most talented in the modern era. I'm old. I'm too old, but the 70 teams, I think, those were the wheelhouse of the truly, truly great teams, because there was no free agency. I talk about it all the time. So you get a bunch of Hall of Famers together, and they were together forever. They're not leaving because you can't afford to pay them. There's no free agency. It was structured. So I kind of take them out of it, because there were so many, like those Steelers teams. There's so many.
Yeah, it's too hard to compare them to.
Yeah. But they couldn't lose them. They literally couldn't lose them unless they decided, I hate the organization, I'm going to retire. There's nothing they could do.
Yeah, who's the dude in Philly that did that? Norman Brayman?
Yeah, but what's in the era of free agency, I would say, they have a strong argument to be the most talented team ever in the era of unrestricted free agent. I'm not talking about plan B free agency for old school fans. Unrestricted free agency, where you literally can't keep teams together because there'll be 30% turnover every year. They have so many good players on this team. Well, last year's team, they lost a bunch of them already, but so many.
Good stuff, Johnny Mac. John, 7 minutes left on the show today. I mentioned we're 30 days out from the draft. We gave you the recap. The Eagles picked up a swing tackle in Kendall Lamb yesterday. We talked about draft options, talked about some guys on that defensive line that might fit on the Philadelphia Eagles. Talked about that offense. I know that offense. Boy, that offense, John, it's always one thing is guaranteed. It's guaranteed to create some discussion. Boy, the people are – some people loving it. Some people hating it. Everybody wants to talk when you talk offense, Johnny Mac, in the NFL. So
and they always want another skill position guy. Bring me in a skill position guy.
We don't need that. Yeah. Although we might need a tight end if they move on from Goddard. I don't know what the plan is there.
Yeah, well, still to be determined. But
any inside info you can share with us on Goddard?
Nothing new. Just I lean more towards him not being here, but it's probably going to be later because of the cap implications. But it seems like they're hyper-focused on gaining some cash to get some other extensions done.
We'll see what they end up doing with all of that stuff. Johnny Mac, You're, I guess, a little early for our final thoughts, but overall, they're in a good spot in the offseason. We'll see what they do in the NFL draft, obviously, but the Temu offseason continue. Would you put Kendall Lamb on the Temu list? I guess so, right?
Yeah, in 1 year, 1 point. Now
What
he gets
aisle?
one.
Is he in like the clearance aisle? Like the clearance
They're
aisle?
all, every single one of them. I guess the only one you can argue is Ojulari. I still don't have the numbers on that thing, but
which tells you that the numbers
he's a little bit. Ojulari might be the guy. You get the one new employee puts something in the clearance aisle that isn't supposed to be in the clearance aisle.
Right.
That might be the one different. And in a weird way, Charlie Hewlett, yeah, but he's still long snapper. Nobody cares about him.
Yeah, no.
But that's a good move. The Eagles got better at long
Nobody
snapper.
does. Yeah, I saw two things, John. You're going to hate these two things because I don't know if there's any truth to them at all, but I saw them floating around. I saw one thing was like the Jalen Carter contract prediction of 4 years, $168 million. I know there's no truth to it, but how far off do you think that number is?
Well, it's not far off. I mean,
I don't think it's going to be
the guys. That's part of the problem. This is what they're doing. They're trying to get ready for the Jalen Carter extension. He's gonna set the market. And whoever is the number one at that time, I could look it up real quick. He's going to go above it, and the Eagles know it. And right now it's 31 average and 32, almost 32 for Chris Jones. So they're not going to go to 42 just because they have to go to 42 or whatever that nonsense. And I saw it, but it's one of those engagement Twitters, and I don't like talking about them. But if it's 32 now remember you got a whole year, so other guys are going to get extensions, and they're going to try to set the bar. But he's going to set the bar. So wherever it is, he's going above it. But it's not going to be till next year. He can't get an extension till after next season. So you still have time for people to reset the bar. So wherever the bar is, when he's up, he's going above it.
He's going way above it. Let's get to some super chats. My bad to all the super chats. I almost forgot about you today. I'll never forget, but I almost did today. D. Hughes checked in earlier. A.J. Brown needs 10 to 15 targets per game. That's what he wants to see different in the offense.
Run the ball, D. Hughes. Run the ball. Yeah.
D. Hughes was echoing a lot of your comments. Here's another one from D. Hughes. D. Hughes, appreciate you, brother. He says, we almost lost the game we dominated in the playoffs, Rams, and everyone ignores it because we won. Passing game undoubtedly needs to be better.
I don't know why it's the least controversial thing I've ever said, and people get most upset about. It's got to get better. It's obvious.
Well, I mean, to be fair, John, he pulled that. The outlier that D. Hughes comes up with is a fucking snowstorm in January. I mean, D. Hughes, you could have came up with a better game than that.
The Los Angeles Rams, you can look at it that way, are playing a snowstorm in Philadelphia in January and had the ball in a position to win at the end of the game if it wasn't for Jalen Carter.
But that's football, man. You don't blow every team out.
In a snowstorm against a freaking, it's not a dome, whatever you call that thing out there. It's beautiful, but a Los Angeles team? Yeah. I mean, they didn't play well. They know they didn't play well.
They didn't play
why is this controversial?
I don't know.
And by the way, if the Rams didn't miscommunicate on the offensive line, they probably win the game, as people have pointed out.
But I don't think that's the best example of why the Eagles' passing game needs to be better. That game, I mean, it was just a major.
There's 50 reasons, but yeah, I mean, you can go to the regular season, but nobody cares because they won. Like again, all these people that want to be validated. You said the passing offense was atrocious in 2023. The defense was atrocious. The passing game was okay. Should have been better. Versus 2024, where the passing game was pretty poor for most of the season, especially considering the talent on hand, and the defense was great. There's the difference. So if you want to be validated, Go elsewhere. The people that don't know. I mean, and by the way, Jalen Hurts said it. I usually start with AJ, but people don't like AJ. AJ Brown said it. Devontae Smith said it. Nick Sirianni said it. Don't blame me. Blame them.
Yeah. Devin Shanahan checks in. What's up, Devin? My boy. Did they play poorly in the passing game, or did they just not utilize it some games? My opinion, they didn't play poorly. They just leaned on the run. Well, I think there's some degree of truth to that for sure. I don't know how much, but.
Well, in the games where they had 65 net passing yards, they certainly leaned on the run. So self-fulfilling prophecy. But it's not the numbers, it's the efficacy. And the efficacy too often wasn't there, especially when you consider the talent on hand. Should be one of the best passing games in the NFL.
Abe checks in. What's up, Abe? Jalen scaled back from throwing so much and not causing turnovers like in 23. Does this help Patullo on where to improve the offense? And does Kellen get credit?
No, I think that's a natural correction. I talked about all last offseason. I said it was going to regress back to the mean. I think there's some good in that. I think Jalen was hyper-focused on it, maybe too much. And I think there's a better balance of, he always took care of the football well before 2023. That was the regression to the mean. I thought it would go back to normal. It was, but I think he was hyper-focused on it. Now I think he needs to get a better balance for taking some more chances and being a little bit more aggressive. If 5 interceptions turns into 8 or 9, it's not the worst thing in the world, but it can't be 15 or whatever it was the year before. But a lot of that had to do with the defense being like it's such a complimentary game.
I know it really is. And this team was a perfect example of perfect complementary football.
Yeah. Because if they weren't trying to do some things, you generally turn the football over more when you're pressing and when you need to do things.
Right.
And they weren't nearly as good defensively, so they needed to score more. Exactly. They needed to move the football more. They needed to throw it more, and that creates more opportunities for turnovers.
Yeah. I mean, we talked a lot about the passing game. You could argue, forget the passing game. The hardest thing moving forward for the Eagles is going to be duplicating how perfect complementary football they played last year was. And that's going to be tough to do. Everything worked last year for the Birds. Joseph Robinson, you need to stop talking football.
Joseph.
It hurts, I don't think.
Put on the baby ears, Joseph. I didn't validate that. What that means, I didn't validate you today. I'm sorry I didn't validate your opinion today.
Joseph, you don't need a binky, do you? Come on, Joseph. You're bigger than that, Joseph. Come on.
Needs a Linus blanket. Hey, you don't like it? Go get validated. You know where to go. 856. What's the number? You know where to go. You ain't getting validated here for saying stupid shit, Joseph. So you might want to move on.
West Philly Low says, is Stafford an all-pro or Super Bowl MVP or Burrow? Well, that's a little bit of
another moron. Come on, West Philly Los. I would love to see West Philly Los's objective opinion of Matthew Stafford on the Detroit Lions when I was saying he was a great quarterback. I didn't change West Philly Los. You changed. You don't know how to evaluate the quarterback position because you think the quarterback is winning and losing games by himself. And that's why the evaluation is broken. Thanks for proving my point.
D. Hughes checks in. D. Hughes, I'm calling you J. Mac Jr. from now on. He says, people boil QB play down to wins and losses. Every other position is evaluated by actual performance on the field.
Well, D. Hughes is correct.
Oh, I know you're saying he's correct.
How could you say that's not correct?
No, I'm not saying it's not. I'm just saying I knew you would
because I bring up and I love Josh Sweat personally, but nobody is making. And I'm not picking on Josh. It could be any position. Like nobody is saying Jamar Chase on the same team as Joe Burrow deserves the largest contract ever because he didn't win the Super Bowl. Nobody's saying Myles Garrett isn't the best defensive end in the NFL because he didn't win the Super Bowl. And nobody you know who's also been to 2 Super Bowls since 2022 and has performed at a high level and should have won the MVP, Josh Sweat. But you know what? Nobody's talking about Josh Sweat's better than Myles Garrett.
Well,
because
he didn't have a proven impact on the team.
Evaluation of the position isn't broken. On that particular day, he had a freaking huge impact on the Philadelphia Eagles, Josh Sweat.
Here's the thing. Here's one thing now. I don't disagree with the 4 quarterbacks that we talked about. Joe Burrow, Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, Patrick Mahomes. They're all probably going to be Hall of Famers when their careers are done, whether they get hardware or not. They're all that talented. If Jalen Hurts gets another ring, he's going to be right in there with them. So my point of maybe there's 5 elite guys will be true. But again, if you analyze personal different, then that's fine. Everybody's going to have different opinion. Brian Pumper, the last one of the day. So-called draft experts have us drafting safeties and wide receiver at 32. What the F is going on?
Wide receiver, I'm with you. I saw that one, Pumper. I'm like, geez.
Safeties too. They're not drafted a safety at 32, John.
Well, I mean, they need a safety at least. They don't need a wide receiver. At least I don't think there's going to be a safety there worthwhile. But if some reason like Emmett Worry drops, I mean, they might take him. I doubt it, but at least there's a path to safety because they have an obvious need now that CJ's out. They don't need a wide receiver. They don't. And even I think Jahan Dotson's underrated by most. I think he showed in little opportunities what he can do a little bit. But they don't get the ball to the third receiver enough to begin with. And assuming that guy's not effective as a third receiver, I think that's a misnomer. So they have no need for a wide receiver unless everybody turns a self-fulfilling prophecy of trading A.J. Brown. Then maybe you'd take a wide receiver.
Yeah. Brode says, why is drafting a safety at 32 out of the realm of possibility? I just think they're looking for more value there, right? I mean, I think that's where they're at with the defense. They probably want more valuable positions because even if you get all-pro safety caliber player, you're not saving as much. It's not as valuable of a contract, but maybe they will. I don't know. We'll see what they end up doing. Johnny Mac, great show today, brother. Your final thoughts on this Tuesday edition of Birds 365.
Sorry to the baby ears people. You can ask Zander.
Don't apologize. Don't apologize to the mom, whether they agree or disagree.
Yeah. Well, I know I'm people that know me. I'm not going to validate you. So if I think you're wrong, I'm going to say you're wrong. But I appreciate the Matthew Stafford conversation because, I was ground floor on Matthew Stafford's a good quarterback.
Yeah, you were. Good stuff, Johnny Mac. John, appreciate it. Great work today. Maybe we'll talk to you later today. Unlikely. If not, tomorrow morning, Wednesday edition of Birds 365. We'll see you then. All right, brother?
All right. Thanks, all.
All right. There's Johnny Mac. John McMullen, the #1 Eagles beat reporter in town, brought the heat today on the show as we talked about the offense, talked about a couple of other things. A couple of you guys in the chat, all right, checking in on the conversation. I always appreciate that. So thanks all of you guys, whether we agree or disagree. Curtis, what are you, sniffing helium balloons this morning? Curtis. D. Hughes. Did John McMullen put you in the John McMullen portal? He J-Mac-ized you. What can we come up with? McMullenized you. D. Hughes, you've been McMullenized. Enjoy the Super Bowl, D. Hughes. You have been McMullenized. Great show. Very fun show. Appreciate all of you guys checking in. I love conversations like that. Paul, I saw you in here. And Paul, I love you. But Paul, I almost ripped you. I love you, Paul. All right, Paul. Talk about Kendall Lamb. I don't want to talk about the offense. Hey, Paul. Paul, you're appreciated here. Paul, I appreciate your support. Paul, leave the content to me, Paul. Okay? Come on, Paul. McMullenized. That's what it is. Philly Don. Yes. The shit list permanently. Although I did see your comment earlier that you got your Kango. That is dope. That is dope. I'm very happy that you got the Kango. Actually, Don, the Kango is enough to get you off the shit list, okay? You're off the shit list today. How about that? You're off the shit list. D. Hughes, what's up, man? D. Hughes, you know I appreciate you. You know I love you, brother. Thank you, man, for all your support of the channel. Brandon says, you won, Zander. I'm off the safety train. Get me Walter Nolan. All right, now we're on the same page, Brandon. Walter Nolan would be a home run, I think, for this team. I think he would be a home run for this football team. I don't know how he's going to fall to 32. Like, there's no way the NFL world is asleep on that kid. That dude can play. He can rush the passer from the interior. He can line up 3 technique, 4 technique, really probably a 5 technique. I mean, I think Walter Nolan is a home run pick. But I don't know. I mean, look, here's one thing about the draft. I don't profess to be an expert on the draft. I don't want to be an expert on the draft. I bring on people who know a lot more about the draft than I do. John knows more about the draft process than I do. A lot of you guys probably know more about the draft than I do. I love the process because I love unlimited possibilities. I don't like to shut off possibilities. You know, some people just like to live and, oh, this is what's going to happen or this. I like to explore and think about all the opportunities or all the possibilities. So I love the draft from that reason. I love thinking about adding 7, 8 guys to our Philadelphia Eagles, our beloved Philadelphia Eagles. So I love it from that reason. But we'll see, man. We'll see what ends up happening. All right. I'm with you, Don. I don't think Nolan gets to us. I don't either. Neil says, I like to move, but 32 to 8 is going to cost you way more. Well, he's not going to go at number 8. Actually, you might be talking about somebody else. Neil says, yeah, but you'll never see me wear that periwinkle, though. You talking about my hat? This is not periwinkle. This is pink. Peony pink or peony pink. I don't know. How do you say that flower? Peony plant. How do you say that? That's what this would be. That's what it was called on the Kango website. Peony pink. All right. I saw it. I said, purchase it. If Neil doesn't like it, that means you purchased 2 of them because Neil doesn't know a damn thing. All right. Love you, Neil. I love you, Neil. All right, everybody. Let's see what we got. Let's see what we got here. Curtis says Jalen top 10 quarterback on a top 1 roster equals Super Bowl. Doesn't sound crazy to me. Okay, Curtis, you can keep Jalen down at your 10. Okay. We got more Super Bowl merch being gifted today, Zander. I got a bunch more merch. I don't know about any gifts today, Brandon. I didn't see much love coming in. All right. But I got plenty more. I got plenty more. Oh, Daz. Daz is one of those guys. I can't wear pink. I can't wear pink. You know, I told you guys this before. I don't let people put me in a box, regardless of what the box is. Okay? Daz, I don't care whether it's you can't wear pink, you can't wear Kangos, you can't put Jalen Hurts in the top 5, you can't draft it. I don't give a shit. All right? You pick your box. And you live in that world. I'll live over here in my world. All right? I'm free. Break the chains, baby. Break the chains. Break the chains. All right? Bird Gang Girl, good to see you in here. Hope you're doing well. My boy B. Flem. Don't talk shit on the periwinkle. You know what, B. Flem? When they talk shit, it reveals more about them than they know. All right? Exciting Whites. Me and you could not be more polar opposites. He says, I'm happiest when I'm in the box. Well, maybe you're referring to something different. I don't want to go down that road. This is supposed to be a PG show. Exciting Whites. Now that I've realized what you've done, Exciting Whites, come on, dog. Exciting Whites, you almost got me. You almost got me. I agree. I agree. All right. Shit, Exciting Whites. Can't believe you just brought that up. Nobody read Exciting Whites' comment. You're not allowed to read it. William Stark, Break the Chains. Good song. Yes, William Stark. Don't tell Dick Track. Yeah, don't tell him. Exciting Whites. I can't believe you just did that to me. David LaPree. What's up, David? Hope you're doing good, my guy. I want to see who the great people of JAKIB Nation. There's J-Mac Jr. Oh my God. Now the chat is unhinged. Bob Brown comes in with a Bob Brown comes in like Mike Tyson in the 8th with a haymaker. Oh man. David LaPree, what's up, my dude? Hope you're doing well, brother. Hope you're doing well. D. Hughes, who do you want to draft, D. Hughes? J-Mac Jr. You've been McMullenized. Who do you want to draft, brother? Who do you like? Who do you like in the draft? Paul Mancini, who do you like in the draft? More breakdowns coming, brother. There's going to be breakdowns every day. I mean, we don't really have the host for that. That's the problem, Brandon. Like, John doesn't like to go player breakdown per prospect. There's certain draft guys that like to do it. I was talking to Ian Cummings about maybe doing some more for the channel, maybe making some draft prospects, but yeah, we should do it. Maybe I'll do it. I'm not the right guy to do it. That's the problem. I don't want to pretend to be something I'm not, I think there's better guys you can read on the draft. Now, I could be information-based. I could go information-based on you. All right? B. Flem's with me. He wants Walter Nolan. I like it. Keith Johnson, great show, Z. Keith, I haven't seen you in a bit. Hope you're doing well, my brother. Appreciate you, Keith. Appreciate you, Keith. Abe says James Pierce. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I'm back and forth on him. Uber productive on the field, so got to like what he did on the field. But we'll see. We'll see what they end up doing. Got to get Sills. I want to send Sills in the Emilio Acho jersey. How about that? He calls him Emilio Acho. It sounds like Emmanuel Acho from FS1. All right? Sounds like a man. Curtis, you're off base on Jalen Hurts. You're way off base. Curtis, you and D. Hughes are so far off base on Jalen Hurts, it's not even funny. So to Curtis and D. Hughes, winning doesn't matter. It's only raw talent. I can't analyze the quarterback on winning and losing. It's only raw talent. Okay, good. Have fun. Have fun taking the most talented guy in the room, because never in the history of the NFL has the most talented person won the most. It takes more than that. Oh, bullshit, Curtis. Dirty Air, good comment. Won't be reading it on the show. Good comment. A Kango hat tip to you. All right. Give me Walter Nolan. All right, I like that. I like that. Because it takes a team, Z. Curtis, you're McMullenized too. Yo, Wilfredo. Xander, he says Zander won't hit water if he falls off a boat. LOL. 4 for 30 in the court. Yo, Wilfredo. Look at my newest pickup. All right. So all my hooping happens outdoor. I got a fresh Wilson indoor-outdoor ball this weekend. It's one of my favorite things to buy is a new basketball. Get the perfect grip. Jumper is looking pretty. Jumper is almost hit my computer because the jumper was so pretty. There you go. Wilfredo, you want to come on over, all right? You want to hit the local LA Fitness. You want whatever you want to do. All right, Wilfredo? I'll play version. Girls ball. Dirty Air. I told you guys I have huge hands. Okay? I tried telling people this. They don't believe me. This is a size 7. This is a natural. This is an NBA ball. Authentic series. Size 7. Yes, I have massive hands. Which is why I'm good at basketball. It's why I would have been a great boxer too. Because I was a physical motherfucker. I loved fighting. Loved fighting. I loved that shit. I loved physical stuff. I would have been a great boxer. And you know what else I would have been great at? I would have been good at wrestling. If I played from Jump Street, okay? I would have been good at wrestling. I got huge legs and big hands. I can get more hang time than Z. Memorize you might. I don't jump. All right. I'm not the best jumper in the world. I won't lie to you there. Joe Whip. The best looking girl isn't always the one to pick. More to it than raw talent. You see, that's a guy that has some experience in life. That's a guy who's been around the block a couple of times. Thank you, Joe. Thank you, Joe. Good comment, brother. All right. B. Flem, I knew you would. White boys can't jump. I can jump a little better than an average white boy, but I can't jump. You're right. All right. Let's see what Bob Brown has to say here. What's up, Bob? Hope you're doing good, brother. Xander, the issue with the top rankings is that they are too broad without clarifying the grading. Winning is the default. Bob, again, another great comment. You're 100% right. If we want to rank guys, this is the most talented. This is the guy you want to win a game. This is the guy with the best intangibles. You're right. All the rankings would look different. All right? All the rankings would look different. But I don't disagree. Full Max says, Xander, if my mother had wheels, she would have been a bike. Good comment, brother. All right, good comment. And if my aunt had a dick, she'd be my uncle. Actually, maybe in today's day and age, she wouldn't. I don't know. All right. Maybe in today's day and age, she wouldn't. Wow, William Stark, you can jump. If you're 5'11", all right, if you're 5'11" and you can dunk, you could jump. I'm like 5'10" and a half-ish. I'm close to 5'11". I ain't dunking. That's impressive, William Stark. Good job by you. All right. Brian Fleming's taking a shot at Joe Whip. Joe Whip has been with a bunch of hard sixes. Joe, clap back. All right. Clap back at this dude. All right. D. Hughes, this is bullshit. He says, if I'm driving a Lambo and you're in a Honda, I'm not a better driver than you just because I beat you in a race. What an egregious. That's like an NFL player playing versus a Pee-wee football player, a Lambo versus a Honda. Stop. How about Lambo versus a Porsche? All right. The Lambo's got more horsepower. Actually, that's the perfect example. The Lambo's got more horsepower. The Lambo's got the V12 motor, D. Hughes. Give me the V6. That's 2.9 seconds, 0 to 60, and is the fastest car in the world. Because it ain't all about the horsepower. It ain't all about the size of the motor. It ain't all about the elite player. There's more to it than that. All right? Joe Burrow is not in a Honda. Stop it. Any NFL team is not a Honda, okay? These guys are all professional athletes. You make it to the NFL, you are elite. You are rarefied air. Okay? Exciting whites. That wasn't that exciting whites. The thing it wasn't supposed to come off that way. Honda Motors is a way better company than Lambos. Yeah, because Lambos are what? They're like Volkswagens, aren't they? Volkswagens. Ugh, hate Volkswagens. Sorry if anybody drives a Volkswagen. Not my cup of tea. Well, I wasn't. Yeah, I mean, I'm talking about a Civic versus an SVJ. All right, Siglord. You might call Honda Motors a better company. All right, for the sake of the conversation. Hey, Abe, I knew Abe would be defending VW because he drives an Audi. Abe drives an Audi, which is a glorified VW. It's a glorified VW, Abe. That's what you drive. You could say that about anything, though. McMullenized has to be put in the Webster's dictionary. William Stark, I don't think I have the power to do that. All right. Fiat owns Ferrari. Does Fiat own Ferrari? No. Oh, my goodness. Controlled by the descendants of Fiat's founder. I think it's still not the same. Porsche is Volkswagen, you square. No, I thought isn't Audi I got it all mixed up, the fucking car. There's too many of them. Yeah, Lambo. I was going to say, Lambo's also VW. You square. Fucking nerd. Yeah, Audi is the fancy VW, and the Lambo is the one they rob you on. It's the VW they rob you on. Although I'd still buy a Lambo. Come on, they look sick. All right, they look sick. Yo, Brode, congratulations, Brode. You've officially made the shit list, Brode. A great honor. Something you can put on your tombstone is I was once on Zander Krause's shit list. Congratulations, Brode. This is a big day for you. Oh, I'm Curtis. I'm Curtis. All I want to do is sound like John McMullen. Curtis, are you thinking on your own over there? He says the chat is fanboyized. Nothing is wrong with that. Okay, good. If you want to take Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen, Joe Burrow over Jalen Hurts, then you can. You can choose to make that conversation. I'm going to say, fuck that. The dude we have in the city just led us to 2 Super Bowls in 3 years. I'm not infatuated by the shiny new toy. All right? I'm not infatuated by it. Look at Rick. Rick wants me to be a homeless man. He says, why do you do the show every day if there's no Eagles news? Because there's shit to talk about, Rick. Come on, Rick. Why are you here if there's no Eagles news? That's a better question. That's a better question, Rick. Why are you here? Dumbass. Here lies Brode. He once made Xander's shit list. That's a good comment right there. Curtis already has the pink face. All right. All right. The Xander time is engaged. Well, that's it, Brian. It's over. It's over. The Xander time has officially come to a conclusion. It's 10:25. It's over. I have officially decided to close this Xander time. All right? That's it. We're done. Texas T choked on my pineapple. Texas T, I hope you're okay. Okay? I don't want you choking. Texas T, stay with me now, Texas T. Although I do love some good pineapple. Mango, though, nothing tops mango. Anybody who says pineapple over mango or anything over mango, your opinion is like Curtis's. It's out the window. Your opinion is like Brode's. It's out the window. It's done. Your opinion is like D. Hughes's, D. McMullen's. It's gone. Pineapple over mango. I'm sorry. Akbar, that is a violation, my dog. That is a violation. Yo, if you guys saw me eat a mango, you'd be disgusted. I ripped the peel off the mango. I'll eat the mango, the skin. I don't give a shit. I will eat every part of a mango. I love mangoes. In the summertime, I rip the skin off and I just sit outside and just eat it like an apple. And you know how mango, you can't really eat a mango like an apple without getting a little messy. All right, Lucius. Lucius, I'm legitimately about to block you from the channel. Mango is a second-tier fruit. That is blasphemous. Strawberries? Dude, this guy, bro, you are on an all-time bender of trash takes today. All right? Strawberries are elite. Dude, strawberries they taste like dirt. They're not even good. There's 5% of strawberries in the world that are actually good, and you got to go to like the farm to get them. Blueberries over strawberries all day. Okay. Mangoes be like 20% fruit, 80% nut. Now you're sleeping. They got a lot of fruit on there, but the nut is big in there. Okay. Eating the peel is wild. I do that with everything. I'm right. Kiwi, eat it. Whole thing. Kiwi, never taking the skin off. Kiwis, I dive in face first. You know, this should give you guys a glimpse into how I treat everything in life. All right. And maybe this is why M. Reyes 30's not going to hit me as fast as it hit you. All right. Because my what do you want to call it? My immune system is top. Ooh, grapes, Akbar. I can ride with you on grapes. I love grapes. I love grapes. Okay, well, bro, I didn't know you were in Lancaster County. You see, dickhead, if you heard me, if you listened, I said 5% of strawberries are great. 5% of strawberries are great. Lancaster County could be what could be in that 5%. You got to go to the farm. So you sit here, and that's exactly what I said. And this dickhead comes back and says, well, you never had Lancaster County strawberry. Yeah, Lancaster County comes right from the farm. It's exactly what I said. Fool. Curtis, fuck you, Curtis. You're on my shit list. I do like strawberries. I'm just saying to sit here and talk about strawberries as an elite fruit is ridiculous. Z is a rind guy. Yes. Watermelon, I eat it right down to the very bottom. I love people who eat watermelon. There's like a coat of red above the coat of white, greenish stuff above the rind. Stop. Who taught you how to eat that? I eat the watermelon all the way. All the way. That's Abe. Abe, I could have guessed that. I could have guessed that. Yeah, bro, with Fleming, speaking of no Diddy, you can picture what else I'm doing. Yeah, exactly. All right, Brian, I won't go there because I will keep it PG, but Bob, you're in a rare form today. A perfect mango is king. Midnight Lexicon. Thank you, sir. Thank you, Midnight. You never had milk from a titty. Actually, I got a fuck you, Curtis, from Z. It's a good day. Yo, Curtis. Fuck you, Curtis. All right, I'm out of here. I'm out. I'm out. J-Mac will say, mango wouldn't be good without talent surrounding it. Yes, he would. If it came from a shit mango tree. Yo, Vulnerable! I've been looking for you! Vitality. You owe me something. Hey, Vulnerable Vitality. You owe me something, and you know what it is. Come on. Come on, Vitality. Come on, Vitality. Come on. Come on. Come on, Vulnerable Vitality. I'm waiting for you. Come on, Vulnerable. Come on. He says, ... What happened in Missouri? What happened? You never compare that shitty school to the Crimson Tide again. Okay, Vulnerable? In fact, Missouri has officially been put on my permanent shit list. Permanent. Okay? The permanent shit list. This guy was in here. We beat you a basketball team. You guys got bounced in round 1 to Drake. To Drake. He says, just let me be sad. No! No! That's a joke. I do love the NCAA tournament, though, and I love seeing Missouri lose after my guy, Vulnerable Vitality, had to give me the shit, okay? Gave me a whole lot of shit. No, I didn't forget you, Bob Brown. I'm balancing multiple things here, Bob. One of my great winners won that jersey, and now you want me to turn around and send it to you. Come on, Bob. What do you think this is? The Bob Brown Show? Good night. Good night. Dirty Air says, my kids pay the dad tax and everything. Dirty Air, how many kids you got? You're a younger dude. How many kids you got? Okay, you don't have to say. You don't have to say if you don't want to. I don't really care. Okay. All right, everybody, I'm out of here. All right, that's fair. That's fair. You're right, Bob, but sometimes I say shit I shouldn't have said. Vulnerable says, listen, man, I got to take my shots when I can. It's the life of a Mizzou fan. Yeah, I feel bad for you, brother. I feel bad for you. All right? I feel bad for you. But your team did just get bounced in hour one, so you got to go to the corner for at least a half a year. All right? I don't want to hear you. I don't want to hear you chirping the Crimson Tide. Vitality to the corner now. 6 months. Good. Sit. Good. Stay. Oh, man. All right, I'm out of here. I love all you guys. Great show today. We'll have a great show tomorrow. All right? Love all you guys, including Vitality, including Brode, including Zeal, Bird Gang Girl, Lucius the Show with maybe the worst take of the day that mangoes are a second-tier fruit. See ya, Lucius. Terrible take. William Stark had a great take today. I forget what it was, but I appreciate you, William. Thanks all you guys. Brandon Howard, appreciate you. M. Reyes, take it easy. Curtis, the shit list stamped with your name. In fact, Curtis, you're now being trampled by Vulnerable Vitality, who is sitting on top of you in the corner. Okay? So you have the cuck corner. You have Curtis on the bottom. You have D. Hughes. And now sitting on top of the throne in the cuck corner is Vulnerable Vitality. Okay? You guys are on 6-month timeout. Okay? We'll talk to you guys in 6 months. Thank you all. I love all you guys. See you next time on Birds 365.
You've been listening to Birds 365, the destination for the passionate Eagles football fan who bleeds green. If it's Eagles football, we're talking about it. Debate inside the locker room and guests that are some of the greatest football minds from around the region. We hope you enjoyed the show. We know we had a blast. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and we'll be back soon. But in the meantime, hook up with us on social media at JAKIB Sports. See you next time on Birds 365.